There were continuous mountains and numerous halls there, and one could not see the end of them with a glance. The gate of the General Star Hall was very majestic. There were 2 bronze Qilin statues standing on both sides of the gate. At the gate, there were more than a dozen burly men standing straight, exuding a strong and fierce aura. Obviously, they were all experts, and they were all great martial master experts. In front of the door, there was a table, and a white-haired old man was there to register. People came and went at the main entrance. Many of them were senior students of the General Star Hall. Those who joined the General Star Hall were all called students. There were also some who, like Lu Ming, were newcomers who intended to join the General Star's Hall. Big brother Tian Yun. Lu Ming had just arrived when he heard a shout. Ming Feng and Ming Zhu walked over. "Good morning." Lu Ming smiled and greeted him. "It seems that not many people have come." Lu Ming swept his gaze across the room and smiled. The General Star's Hall recruits a batch of people every month, so there aren't many people. On average, there are about 100 people every month. Ming Zhu explained. "Show me your bloodline." At this moment, a young man came to the front of the old man, and the old man said indifferently, "Swish." With a flash of bloody light, a tall brown bear appeared with 3 blood-red chakras. 3rd level blood meridian, sure. "What's your name?" the old man asked. "Feng Wei," the young man said. Then the old man took out a jade token and wrote a few inscriptions on it. He handed the token to the young man and said, "All right, this is your identity jade card. You are now a student of the General Star Hall." The youth revealed a happy expression as he took the jade token and walked into the General Star Hall. Lu Ming was stunned. "Isn't this procedure too simple?" he asked. "It's that simple," Ming Zhu said with a smile. "Then wouldn't there be disciples from the 5 great sects in the General Star Hall?" Lu Ming asked curiously. "Yes, of course there are disciples from the 5 major sections. There are quite a few of them. Some of them have come here to join the General Star Hall, some for cultivation, some for experience. However, after joining the General Star Hall, the General Star Hall will still have certain measures," Ming Zhu explained. Lu Ming was secretly amazed. One by one, the young men went to register. Lu Ming realized that as long as one's blood meridian was above level 2, they could join the General Star's Hall. "Kid, it's you." Suddenly, a voice filled with killing intent was heard. Lu Ming turned around. The corners of his mouth could not help but reveal a cold smile. It was Wuxia. At this moment, Wuxia had changed into a long Asilavira robe with a jade belt around his waist. He was staring at Lu Ming coldly. Beside him, a few young men followed him and walked over. "Brat, you actually dare to stay in the imperial capital and even think of joining the General Star Hall? Just as well don't leave today," Wuxia said gloomily. "Haha. Isn't this the young prince? What a coincidence, eh? You've changed your pants, why do you still smell?" Lu Ming's nose twitched and he said with a smile, You're looking for death." Wuxia's face instantly turned red as he shouted with a ferocious look. This was the greatest hatred in his heart. Although he had warned others not to tell anyone about what had happened 2 days ago, there was no such thing as an impervious wall in the world. The news spread very quickly, and in 2 days, it had almost spread throughout the imperial city, becoming the laughingstock of others. Wuxia hated Lu Ming to the core. Now Lu Ming actually dared to mention this. Someone couldn't help but laugh. So he's the young man from 2 days ago. He actually dared to treat Wuxia like that. I guess Wuxia must hate him to the core. This is going to be interesting. Beside Wuxia is Chen Xiong. That kid is finished. On the side, some of the senior students of the General Star Hall started to whisper. Oh. Chapter 201. Chapter 201 Provocation. 549690339. Young Prince, is this the boy? Beside Wuxia, a tall young man was glaring at Lu Ming. It's this kid. I can recognize him even if he's turned to dust. Wuxia said through gritted teeth. Hey young prince, how do you want me to teach him a lesson? Whatever you want him to become, I'll make him become. Chen Xiong took a few steps forward and looked at Lu Ming teasingly. Do as you see fit. First break his arms and legs. As for the rest, do as you wish. Hua Jie said in a deep voice. All right. Then I'll beat him up so badly that even his mother won't be able to recognize him. Chan Xiong sneered, and a powerful aura emanated from his body. Peak 4th grade Great Martial Master Realm. Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. He was only a peak 4th grade Great Martial Master, and yet he dared to be so arrogant. Chun Xiong, this is the General Star Hall. Don't act rashly. Mingzhu's expression was grave as she took a step forward. Io, isn't this the Pearl Beauty? What, you want to help him? But do you think you can stop me? Get lost immediately and don't ask for trouble. Chan Xiong berated. Mingzhu's expression changed, becoming extremely unsightly. What are you so arrogant for? At worst, we'll just have a battle. Ming Feng saw that Mingzhu was being bullied and immediately shouted. You're just a kid whose hair hasn't even fully grown yet. You're like an ant and you want to fight me? I'll cripple you right now. Chan Xiong laughed coldly and walked towards Ming Feng. Lu Ming smiled faintly and took a step forward. His eyes were calm and a powerful aura rose from his body. The aura of a 4th grade Great Martial Master. So you're a 4th grade Great Martial Master. No wonder you could defeat 6 of the young prince's top experts and be so arrogant. But do you think that you can fight me just because you're a 4th grade Great Martial Master? I'll let you understand how naive you are. Chan Xiong's eyes flickered as he spoke in a contemptuous manner. Then you can try. Lu Ming said indifferently. Boom! Their auras clashed and a gust of wind swept up. What are you guys doing? You're not allowed to use force at the entrance of the General Star Hall. All of you leave. Suddenly, at the entrance of the General Star Hall, the old man in charge of registration let out an angry roar. An extremely powerful aura burst out and enveloped the entire area. Lu Ming's gaze changed. This old man was definitely a martial arts grandmaster. Elder, this person has a grudge against me. I'll cripple him and leave immediately. Hua Jie cupped his fists at the old man. Young prince, although you have a noble status, this is the General Star Hall, and the General Star Hall has its own rules. Other than His Majesty, no one can break the rules of the General Star Hall, and you are no exception. The old man cupped his fists slightly, but he had no intention of giving in. You win. Hua Jie's expression was ugly, but he was helpless. The General Stars Hall's elders were directly under the Emperor. Even if his father, the Heavenly Suppression King, were here, the General Stars Hall's elders might not give him any face. Humph kid, you're lucky, but your luck will last for 3 days at most. I'll see how you die in 3 days. Hua Jie said as he looked at Lu Ming coldly. Let's go. After that, Hua Jie waved his hand and strode into the General Star Hall. Chun Xiong cast a cold glance at Lu Ming. He sneered and followed Hua Jie. All right. Continue. The old man waved his hand and said. There were not many people in the first place. Very soon it was Ming Feng's turn. After Ming Feng it was Lu Ming's turn. Condense your bloodline and let me see. The old man cast a nonchalant glance at Lu Ming. All right. Lu Ming nodded. Then, a sanguine light flashed on his body and his spirit-devouring bloodline was condensed. At the same time 6 blood-colored chakras shone. 6th level blood meridian. The old man's eyes suddenly burst with intense light, like 2 suns. At the side, Mingzhu, Ming Feng, and some other people also looked at Lu Ming in shock. A 6th level blood meridian. It was actually a 6th level blood meridian. One must know that in the 5 great sects, those with 6th level bloodlines were all considered top geniuses, and they were people at the level of the newcomer king. At most there would be 1 or 2 in a year or even none. The old man's eyes flickered and he suddenly asked, which of the 5 great sects are you a disciple of? Lu Ming was stunned. He smiled bitterly in his heart. It seemed that the level of the blood meridian was too high, and it had aroused the suspicion of the elder. However, he could not control the appearance of the chakra of his bloodline. Otherwise, he could only display 3 chakras in a low-key way. Junior doesn't belong to any of the 5 great sections. I'm just a rogue cultivator. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said. He wasn't lying. He was indeed a wandering cultivator now. Oh! The old man's eyes flickered, clearly not believing it. What's your name? The old man asked. Tianyun, Lu Ming answered. Then the old man took out a jade token and carved a few inscriptions on it. There's a test at the martial arts field in 3 days. He passed the jade token to Lu Ming. All right. Lu Ming took the jade card and nodded. Big brother Tianyun. Which room are you staying in? After Lu Ming had registered, Ming Feng came up to him and asked. Lu Ming picked up the jade card and channeled essential qi into it. Some information immediately appeared. Outer hall, number 11232. Lu Ming said. Haha, then let's be together. My outer palace number is 11,231, and my sister is not far from us. She's in number 11186. Ming Feng was overjoyed. Lu Ming nodded, but his heart was moved. Every martial artist had their own room. There were more than 10,000 of them. It seemed like there were quite a number of people in the General Star Hall. There were at least 10,000 people. However, it was normal when he thought about it. The General Star's Hall recruited a batch of people every month. Even if there were not many each time, the number of people accumulated over the years was not small. Lu Ming, you have to be careful in 3 days. At this moment, Mingzhu warned with a grave expression. Lu Ming's expression changed. The old man told everyone who joined that there would be a test in the martial arts school field 3 days later. Moreover, Wuxia had said that Lu Ming was lucky and only had 3 days. He would see how Lu Ming died 3 days later. He was very curious about this. What's going on with the test in 3 days? Lu Ming asked. Mingzhu pondered for a moment and said, Brother Tian, you should know that the General Stars Hall recruits people without asking about their background or origin. They take in anyone. There must be a mix of good and bad people here. Of course, the General Star Hall will take some measures. Therefore, the students who have just joined the General Star Hall will have a test in 3 days. The test is actually very simple. It'll be a sparring match between the senior students and the new students. On the surface, it's a sparring match, but in reality, it's to test the new students' abilities. If they're disciples of the 5 great sects, then they definitely won't receive any training in the future. Mingzhu explained in detail. So that was how it was. Lu Ming nodded. In that case, 3 days later, Wuxia and the others were planning to tamper with the test, so, Brother Tian, you must be careful in 3 days. By right, the senior students who will participate in the test will be selected by the elders of the General Star Hall. However, with Wuxia's abilities, it should not be difficult for him to do something. Mingzhu continued. If they want to come, then let them come. Lu Ming smiled faintly and did not care. Brother Tian, don't be careless. Chun Xiong is a top genius. Although his cultivation is at the peak of the 4th grade Great Martial Master realm, he once had a record of killing a 5th grade Great Martial Master with a single strike. He's extremely powerful, and ordinary martial artists can't compare to him at all. Mingzhu continued. Genius? Wouldn't that be even more interesting? Lu Ming was still smiling faintly. Upon seeing this, Mingzhu did not say much. She led Lu Ming and Ming Feng to the dormitory. Oh. Chapter 202. Chapter 202. Chapter 2023 Palms. 549690339. The General Star Hall was really huge. It was like a small world inside. There were countless mountains, rivers, and historical sites. In particular, the palaces and pavilions were densely packed and overlapping. The dormitory of the General Star Hall was made up of many pavilions. They were all 7-story pavilions with rooms. Lu Ming's room was on the 3rd floor. There was a metal plate hanging at the door with the number 11,232 written on it. Ming Feng's room was right next to his. After taking out his identity jade plate, Zhang Tai shone it on the iron plate. As the iron plate glowed, the door opened automatically. Lu Ming walked in. The room was very spacious and elegantly decorated. There was even a bookshelf on one side of the room, which was filled with brand new books. The treatment in the General Stars Hall is much better than in the mystical sword sect. Although the royal family has declined, they are still the orthodox lineage. Their heritage is still there. Lu Ming pondered in his heart. Not long after, there was a knock on the door. When he opened the door, he saw that it was Mingzhu and Mingfeng. Brother Tian, you've just joined the General Star Hall. I'll show you around. Mingzhu smiled sweetly. Lu Ming nodded. He wanted to familiarize himself with it. Lu Ming and the Pearl Mountain strolled around the General Star Hall. They chatted as they walked. During this period of time, Lu Ming found out that Mingzhu and Mingfeng were the children of a general in the Blazing Sun Empire. Their father guarded the border and fought wars all year round. As his children, they naturally joined the General Star's Hall, and could become generals who guarded an area in the future. The three of them chatted as they walked, and their relationship slowly grew closer. After a few hours, Lu Ming returned to his room and entered the Supreme Shrine. He moved his hand and a secret manual appeared in his hand. The three palms was one of the 2 earth-level martial arts techniques that Lu Ming had obtained from the Dongi tribe's ruins. Previously, he didn't have that much energy to cultivate, but now that he had already cultivated the soaring steps to the highest level, he could finally start cultivating the 3 palms. Lu Ming opened the secret manual of the 3 palms and read it in detail. After a long time, Lu Ming closed the secret manual, his face full of surprise. The 3 palm strikes were completely offensive martial arts techniques, and their power exceeded his imagination. 3 palms. In fact, there were only 3 palms in total. The first palm strike was the palm of humanity. The second palm was the beast Dao palm. The third palm strike was the heavenly path palm strike. According to the introduction, the power of the first palm, the human path palm, was already completely equivalent to the power of other earth-grade martial arts techniques. The power of the second palm had completely exceeded the power of a low earth-grade martial technique, and was infinitely close to a high earth-grade martial technique. As for the third palm, the heavenly path palm, it was said that when cultivated to the highest realm, its power was infinitely close to that of a heaven-rank martial skill. It was infinitely close to a heaven-level martial arts technique. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat when he saw this. Heaven-level martial skills, what kind of concept was that? It was much stronger than earth-level martial skills, incomparably terrifying. That was a martial skill that only king-level warriors were qualified to cultivate. The reason why the 3 palms were classified as a low earth-grade martial arts technique, according to the introduction, was because the third palm in history, very few people were able to successfully cultivate it. The difficulty was too great. Having it was equivalent to not having it, so the 3 palm strikes were determined as earth-grade lower-level martial arts techniques. Only when the first palm had been cultivated to the 3rd level could the second palm be cultivated. However, if he wanted to cultivate the 3rd palm, he didn't know what conditions he would need. It all depended on luck. Lu Ming carefully comprehended it. After reading it, he took out the 3 palm secret manual and read it in detail. The difficulty of cultivating the 3 palms was even more difficult than the ancient shield technique. 3 days passed by in the blink of an eye. In 3 days there was no progress in the 3 palm strikes. At this moment it was time for the new students to take their test. Early in the morning, Mingzhu and Mingfeng found Lu Ming and walked to the martial arts school field with him. The martial arts field was extremely vast. It was said to be the place where the emperor reviewed his troops. One could not see the end of it. On one side of the field, there were more than a dozen fighting rings. At this moment, hundreds of people had already gathered around one of the fighting rings. More than 100 of them were the new students. As for the others, they were all senior students. Some of them were here to watch the show, while others were here to take part in the test. As soon as Lu Ming arrived, he saw a few cold eyes staring at him. They were Huajie, Chanxiong, and the others. Beside Huajie, there were more than 10 young men. They had indeed come. Lu Ming smiled faintly and could not be bothered with them. This kid is so calm now. Wait a moment, let's see how he dies. That's right. He's lucky to be alive today for daring to offend the young prince, but that's it. The other young men beside Huajie sneered. Huajie's lips curled into a cold killing intent as he said, Chanxiong, wait a moment. You just need to be ruthless and put the blame on the Star Hall. I'll take the responsibility. Young prince, don't worry. I know what to do. Chanxiong sneered. After that, the number of people slowly increased and in the end there were about 500 people. At this moment, a middle-aged elder stepped onto the fighting ring. The test this time is very simple. I'll send out the senior students to fight with the new students. The new students don't have to be afraid and just use your strength to the fullest. If you can withstand 100 moves from the senior students, the General Star Hall will give you a generous reward. If you can defeat the senior students, you will be able to cultivate for 1 year free in the other 6 cultivation sanctuaries of the General Star Hall, except for the Earth Cave. The middle-aged elder announced. As soon as he said that, the eyes of many new students began to light up. 7 cultivation sanctuaries? Lu Ming had some doubts. Obviously, he had not heard of it. Brother Tian, the 7 cultivation sanctuaries are unique to the General Star Hall. It's very magical. I'll tell you in detail after the test. Mingzhu said in a low voice. Alright, let's begin. The first to come up is Wu Yuan. The middle-aged elder announced. As soon as he finished speaking, a thin young man stepped onto the fighting ring. Can you go up and test him? The middle-aged elder instructed an older student. Yes. A senior student in a red robe appeared. Without saying much, the battle began. The new student, Wu Yuan, launched a frenzied attack. The battle saber in his hand turned into a rolling saber light, attacking towards Dukan. As for Dukan, he had a smile on his face the entire time. He was unruffled and did not fight back. Instead, he dodged blindly. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. He could tell that Dukan's cultivation was definitely above that of a martial grandmaster, while Wu Yuan was only a 6th grade master. The difference was too great. If Dukan really made a move, he would be able to take Wu Yuan's life in half a move. However, Dukan did not make a move. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He raised his head and looked at the sky to his right. In the sky, above a cloud, a few elders were watching the fighting ring with bright eyes. As expected, there are experts observing in the dark. It seems that this General Stars Hall is not simple. It can't be like the rumors outside that the General Stars Hall is used by the royal family to cultivate their own strength in an attempt to fight against the 10 Direction Sword School, right? But it's so obvious. It's impossible that the 10 Direction Sword School doesn't know about it, right? Lu Ming pondered, full of doubts. At this moment, a few old men were carefully observing the competition on the fighting ring. The blade light is rolling. This is the Lone Peak 30 strikes. This Wu Yuan should be from the Lone Peak City. There's no problem. An old man said. It's a pity that his cultivation is too weak and his talent is average. Another old man sighed. There's no other way. Most of the talented ones have been recruited by the 5 great sections. Let's wait and see. Another sigh was heard. Chapter 203. Chapter 203. You have the nerve to show off. 549690339. Soon 50 to 60 moves had passed on the fighting ring. Let's end this. Dukan lightly shouted. He shot out a punch, and Wu Yuan was directly blasted off the fighting stage. Let's continue. The second round, go away. The middle-aged elder began to announce. One test after another continued. However, the strength of the new students varied. Some of them were only at the warrior realm, and it was impossible for them to last more than 100 moves against the older students. Of course, there were also exceptions. One of them had reached the 3rd grade Great Martial Master realm and defeated an older student, attracting a lot of attention. Soon it was Ming Feng's turn. However, Ming Feng's cultivation was only at the 6th grade Master realm. For his age, it was already very good, but he was no match for the senior student. The other party had deliberately held back for more than 50 moves, and then defeated Ming Feng easily. Next, Tian Yun. The middle-aged elder announced. Lu Ming's expression changed and he stepped onto the fighting ring. Chen Xiong, come up and take the test. The middle-aged elder shouted. Chen Xiong, as expected. Lu Ming's eyes flickered and he revealed a cold smile. It's really Chen Xiong. Can't be such a coincidence. He must have done something. Or he must have been bribed. Mingzhu said in a low voice. Isn't this too despicable? Why don't we just ask Big Brother Tian Yun to give up on the test? Ming Feng said. No, if you give up the test, you can't stay in the General Star Hall, Mingzhu said. Then what should we do? Sister, is that Chen Xiong really that powerful? No matter what, Big Brother Tianyun is still a 4th grade great master. Ming Feng said anxiously. Mingzhu sighed. Of course Chen Xiong is strong. He can kill an ordinary 5th grade great martial master with a single sword strike. I heard that no less than 3 5th grade great martial masters have died at his hands. That's so powerful, what should we do? Ming Feng was even more anxious. There's nothing we can do about it. We'll just have to see how Tianyun's good fortune will turn out. Mingzhu sighed. Ha ha ha. On the other side, Chen Xiong laughed heartily. He stepped onto the fighting ring and stood in front of Lu Ming. Below the fighting stage, Hua Jie sneered. Kid, you're Tianyun, right? You've managed to live for 3 more days. Now accept your fate. Hua Jie, you haven't fought for a few days. Are your bones itching again? Or do you want to pee your pants again? Lu Ming glanced at Hua Jie and said loudly. His voice spread far and wide. Hua Jie almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Lu Ming was too detestable. He had touched on Hua Jie's sore spot. Hua Jie's face was flushed red. He stared at Lu Ming with a sense of duty and roared, Little bastard, scream all you want. This is your last chance. I'll let you have a taste of your mouth. After all, you're going to die soon. Hee hee. Lu Ming sneered in response. He could not be bothered to deal with Hua Jie, this mad dog. Swish. At this moment, Chen Xiong unsheathed his long sword. A brilliant blood-red sword chi shot up into the sky. Tianyun, I once used this sword to kill a 5th grade great martial master with a single strike. It's your honor to die under my sword. Chen Xiong shouted loudly. His face was filled with pride. You killed a 5th grade great master realm martial artist with a single sword strike, and you still have the cheek to brag about it? Don't you find it embarrassing? Lu Ming pursed his lips and said indifferently. As soon as he said that, the people around him staggered and almost fell. All of them looked at Lu Ming speechlessly. Breaking the record? In Lu Ming's eyes, a 4th grade great martial master killing a 5th grade great martial master with a single slash was actually a broken record and embarrassing. This was a battle of a higher realm, and it was in the great martial master realm. A great martial master who could cross realms and kill an opponent was definitely a top genius. Bragging, he was definitely bragging. Almost everyone thought that Lu Ming was bragging. Even Mingzhu and Ming Feng looked at each other in dismay. Go on, go on. I'll let you brag as much as you want as a dying man. Hua Jie burst out laughing. However, Chen Xiong's expression was extremely ugly. The battle results that he had been so proud of were actually so pathetic in Lu Ming's eyes. Whether he was bragging or not, in his opinion this was an insult to him. Tianyun, wait a moment. I hope you can still say it. Chen Xiong's voice was incomparably cold. He pointed his long sword and a surge of sword chi gushed towards Lu Ming. Kill! Chen Xiong shouted, his killing intent soaring into the sky. He became one with the sword and turned into a blood-red sword light, slashing toward Lu Ming. The sword chi whistled as if it could cut the space in half. It was extremely powerful. This was not a test or a spar. He was clearly trying to kill Lu Ming. Not good. The faces of the Pearl Mountain siblings changed drastically. As for Hua Jie, he laughed coldly and thought, Brat, it's really a good thing for you to die like this. On the fighting ring, Lu Ming's expression was calm. As he looked at the incoming sword light, a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He didn't take out a weapon. Instead, he waved his hand. A red light flashed in his hand, and a red spear formed. Lightning! Whoosh! The red spear's radiance flashed. Fast, too fast, so fast that most people didn't even see it clearly. Only the few elders on the clouds had a change in expression. Bang! In the fighting ring, 2 beams of light collided. However, Chen Xiong's sword radiance was like a layer of bubbles, shattering upon contact. Then, the spear radiance continued and disappeared in a flash. The spear quickly disappeared, and 2 figures stood opposite each other on the fighting ring. Who won? Everyone watched with wide eyes. Suddenly, a stream of blood spurted out of Chen Xiong's throat. Chen Xiong let out a blood-curdling screech. He clutched his throat tightly with both hands. His eyes were wide open like a dead fish as he stared at Lu Ming in disbelief. I've said it before, your lousy battle record is really embarrassing, Lu Ming said indifferently. You. Chen Xiong's eyes revealed a look of fear and unwillingness. Then he fell down and stopped breathing. The surrounding students of the General Star Hall were all dumbfounded. One move. He had actually killed a top-tier genius Chen Xiong in one move. Moreover, Lu Ming did not even use a weapon. He had only condensed a long spear with essential qi, and with a casual attack, he had killed Chen Xiong. What kind of strength was this? Wasn't he too strong? In front of him, Chen Xiong simply did not have the slightest strength to fight back. Genius. Peerless genius. Many people were roaring in their hearts. He's so strong. This young man isn't simple, an old man in the clouds said. Could it be a genius from the 5 great sects? It's hard to say. I really hope he's not a disciple of the 5 great sections. Investigate thoroughly. If he's not from the 5 great sects, we must do our best to rope him in. The few elders looked at Lu Ming with bright eyes. Below the fighting ring, Wuxia was dumbfounded by the scene. After a long while, he finally reacted and roared angrily. Tianyun, you actually killed Chen Xiong. You actually killed him. You're going to pay with your life. Pay with my life. It's ridiculous. Just now it was Chen Xiong himself who shouted that he wanted to kill me. Now that I've killed him, it's completely his own fault. Moreover, Elder didn't say that I can't kill anyone. Lu Ming cast a glance at Wuxia and said disdainfully, Oh. Chapter 204. Chapter 204. The 7 Cultivation Sanctuaries. 549690339. On the fighting ring, the middle-aged elder's face darkened, but he did not say anything. He had indeed been bribed by Wuxia. However, he knew that there were a few powerful figures watching him from the clouds. Hence, he did not dare to go overboard. Wuxia was stunned. He could not refute Lu Ming's words. How about this, Wuxia? I'll give you a chance. All of you, come at me together. Lu Ming said indifferently. What? There was an uproar at the scene. Lu Ming actually wanted the people brought by Wuxia to attack together. This was too arrogant. One should know that the people beside Wuxia were all geniuses. They were the children of many influential figures in the imperial city, and were very powerful. Some of them were even stronger than Chen Xiong. No matter how strong Lu Ming was, how could he be a match for so many experts? This was crazy. This was crazy. What? You want to challenge so many of us? Even Wuxia himself was stunned for a moment. Then he reacted and revealed a look of ecstasy on his face. He hurriedly shouted, All right, you said it, don't go back on your word. At the same time he laughed in his heart. He was laughing at Lu Ming for courting death. On the fighting ring, the middle-aged elder was a little stunned. This was the first time he had seen such a scene during a test. For a moment he did not know whether to agree or not. At this moment, a voice transmission entered his ears, asking him to agree. It was a voice transmission from an elder above the clouds. They wanted to take the opportunity to observe Lu Ming. All right, this battle can proceed, the middle-aged elder announced. Go. Wuxia hurriedly waved his hand, and more than a dozen young men beside him rushed up to the fighting ring. Brat, do you think you can be so arrogant just because you defeated Chen Xiong? You're really naive. He's actually challenging so many of us at once. He's simply courting death. If I don't beat him up, I'm not a Wang. Oh. These young men glared at Lu Ming with hostility and sneered. Lu Ming had challenged so many of them at once. It was obvious that he was looking down on them. It was an insult. They wanted to make Lu Ming regret it. Cut the crap. If you want to make a move, do it now. If you don't, get lost. Lu Ming berated. Damn it, you're looking for death. Kill him. Oh. The dozen or so young men let out angry roars, and their bodies emitted a powerful aura. Boom! 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 A blood-red light flashed and the blood of the dozen youths burst out at the same time. A terrifying attack surged toward Lu Ming like a never-ending tide. Lu Ming was instantly drowned by the colorful brilliance. Everyone stared with their eyes wide open. Lu Ming was so arrogant. They wanted to see how Lu Ming would fight against more than 10 young geniuses. At this moment, Lu Ming made his move. Just like before, he didn't even draw his weapon. With a brilliant glow, a spear materialized in his hand. Buzz! The long spear swept out in a very direct and violent way. A full moon appeared on the fighting ring. Bang! Bang! With a loud boom, the attacks of the dozen or so young men were instantly dispersed. The terrifying spear light whizzed out and swept in all directions. Ah! Achoo! Ah! More than a dozen screams sounded out as more than a dozen figures were thrown out of the fighting ring and coughed up blood. It was frozen. The air seemed to have frozen at this moment. Everyone looked at this scene in a daze. One move, it was still just one move, and the dozen or so young geniuses that Wuxia had brought with him were all defeated. He loosened his grip gently, as if he was chasing away a dozen flies. What a waste of time! At this moment, Lu Ming pursed his lips and said. Everyone was speechless. They were roaring in their hearts. What do you mean by wasting time? You're the one who's too abnormal, okay? You can't attack people like this. Huajia's body trembled. His face was pale and his lips were trembling. He pointed at Lu Ming and said, You coward. He couldn't say a word. Strong, he's too strong. Big brother Tianyun is too strong. Ming Feng muttered to himself, his face filled with excitement. At the side, Mingzhu's beautiful eyes also flickered with extraordinary splendor. Lu Ming's strength had completely exceeded her expectations. Who? Above the clouds, a few old men let out a long breath, their eyes flickering. How is it? Can you tell what their origins are? One of the old men asked. I can't tell. It was just one move and most of them were swept by absolute power. Very little information was exposed. Furthermore, what he used was most likely a personal martial technique that he had obtained himself. There are no traces of the 5 great sections. Another old man said. This is difficult. Is such a peerless genius really from the 5 great sects? Pay attention, we must pay close attention. If it's someone from the 5 great sects, they're just here to use the sacred land to cultivate. They won't be able to stay for long. If he isn't, I must rope him in. The few elders quickly discussed. Elder, is my test over? Lu Ming asked the middle-aged elder. The knot has ended. The middle-aged elder stuttered. Lu Ming nodded and jumped off the fighting ring. Huajie glared at Lu Ming resentfully and left with more than 10 young men who were staggering. They were in a sorry state. Huajie would become a laughingstock once again if he came in a high-profile manner and left with a dejected face. Lu Ming smiled faintly. As long as there were no elders, he did not care about a dandy like Huajie. Then the tests continued, but there were no outstanding people. Soon all the tests were over. The middle-aged elder marked the identity jade card of each new student. Haha, I can finally go to the 7 cultivation sanctuaries to cultivate. Ming Feng laughed. Ming Feng, are the 7 cultivation sanctuaries really that good? Lu Ming asked curiously. Good, of course it's good. Big brother Tianyun, do you know why there are disciples from the 5 great sects who managed to sneak in? He wants to enter the 7 sacred lands of the General Star Hall to cultivate. Ming Feng's eyes lit up. Brother Tian, the 7 cultivation sanctuaries of the General Star's Hall are the most important treasure lands of the royal family. It is said that the 10 Direction Sword School is very coveting them, but the royal family has them in their hands. It can be said that the 7 cultivation sanctuaries are the foundation of the royal family. They can't give them to anyone else. Mingzhu also explained. That's right, big brother Tianyun. You've defeated the senior students this time. Other than the Earth Yuan Cave, you can choose any of the other 6 places and train for free for a year. I'm so envious. Ming Feng shouted. I wonder what are the 7 cultivation sanctuaries? Lu Ming asked. I'll say it. The 7 cultivation sanctuaries are Earth Essence Cave, Gongjin Valley, Godwind Valley, No Rest Tower, 10,000 Killing Secret Realm, Foggy Marsh and Lightning Palace. Ming Feng immediately said. Among them, the most mysterious one is the Earth Yuan Cave. Under the Earth Yuan Cave, there is a rich fire spiritual qi that can be condensed into true qi. In the Earth Yuan Cave, whether it is to improve cultivation or to practice fire attribute martial skills, it will be twice the result with half the effort. The Gungjin Valley is filled with rich golden qi, and is the best place to cultivate metal attribute cultivation techniques and martial arts techniques. Godwind Valley is filled with strong winds and hurricanes. It is the best gu for the wind attribute. Oh. Ming Feng explained the characteristics of the 7 cultivation holy lands one by one. Oh. Chapter 205. Chapter 205 Earth Cave. 549690339. It's so magical. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with a strong interest. There were not many places like this in the mystical sword sect. Lu Ming only knew of a clam cave in the Vermilion Bird Hall. The royal family that had once ruled the Burning Sun Empire was indeed powerful. Big brother Tianyun. Which one do you plan on going to first? Ming Feng asked. Earth Yuan Cave. Lu Ming pondered for a moment and said, Okay, I want to go too. Let's go together. Ming Feng was overjoyed. Lu Ming nodded. Then you two go to the Earth Cave. I'm going to the Foggy Marsh to practice a martial skill, so I won't be going with you. Mingzhu said with a smile. Sister, you should hurry up and go. Ming Feng urged. You brat, you've just arrived at the General Star's hall, so don't cause any trouble. Mingzhu glared at Ming Feng then left. Big brother Tianyun. Let's go to the Earth Cave together. Ming Feng shouted, looking extremely excited. Earth Cave, just ask a senior student and he would know the way. The two of them passed through many palaces and came to a mountain peak. At the foot of the mountain there was a huge stone wall with a stone door on it. 2 middle-aged men were guarding the door. The 2 middle-aged men were just casually standing there, but they exuded an aura that was as deep as the ocean. What a strong cultivation. He is definitely a martial arts grandmaster. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Everyone said that the imperial family had declined, but it seemed that their strength was still not to be underestimated. In the mystical sword sect, a martial arts grandmaster was an expert at the level of a Esalavira-robed elder. Senior, we're here to cultivate in the Earth Cave. Ming Feng walked in front of a burly man and bowed respectfully. Let me take a look at your identity jade token. The large man said expressionlessly. Lu Ming and Ming Feng took out their identity jade cards and handed them to the burly man. The burly man took it and looked at it before nodding. You can go in and exchange for the inscription stones first. Only with the inscription stones can you open the secret training room in the Earth Cave. All right, thank you, senior. Ming Feng nodded and took out the spiritual crystals. Lu Ming also took out his spirit crystals. On the way here, Ming Feng had already explained the situation in the Earth Cave to Lu Ming in detail. The imperial family had carved out 13 levels of the Earth Cave. There were some secret training rooms on each floor, which were filled with rich fire property spiritual qi. It was very useful for improving cultivation, refining genuine qi, and practicing fire property martial skills. The lower he went, the denser the spiritual qi was, and the better the effect. However, they couldn't let people cultivate for free. Each secret room was engraved with an inscription stone. Only the imperial family's inscription stone could open the secret room and enter it to cultivate. Inscription stones, 30 spiritual crystals for one. Of course, the further down he went, the more rune stones he needed. How many inscription stones do you want to exchange? The middle-aged man asked Ming Feng. One piece is enough. Ming Feng said. On the first level of the Earth Cave, one only needed an inscription stone to open a secret cultivation room and cultivate for a month. Ming Feng took out 30 spiritual crystals and handed them to the middle-aged man. Then the middle-aged man handed Ming Feng a fiery red stone that was engraved with inscriptions. How about you? How many rune stones do you need? The middle-aged man asked. I'll exchange for 100 yuan first. Lu Ming said casually. Ah, what? 100 yuan? The two middle-aged men were shocked. Ming Feng also widened his eyes. 100 rune stones would cost 3,000 spiritual crystals, which was equivalent to 30 million taels of Esilavir. How could Lu Ming have so many spiritual crystals at such a young age? Lu Ming smiled. His fingers glowed and a jade box appeared. There were rows of spiritual crystals neatly stacked inside. Lu Ming took out 3,000 spiritual crystals and handed them to the middle-aged man. The middle-aged burly man took it and took out 100 inscription stones, handing them to Lu Ming. Go in and cultivate. The two middle-aged men finally smiled. The stone door opened and Lu Ming and Ming Feng walked in. As soon as he entered, he felt a strong fire attribute spiritual qi blowing in his face. After walking forward for about 100 meters, a huge underground cave appeared. The surroundings were well maintained, and it was obvious that it was man-made. Around the cave there were many secret training rooms. The doors of the secret rooms were all closed, but some of them were shimmering with a faint light, indicating that someone was cultivating inside. If there was no light on the door, it meant that no one was cultivating inside. In the middle was a hole. As he walked in, he saw that there was a spiral stone staircase leading down the cave. This was the first floor, and the second floor was just below. Big brother Tianyun, which level do you plan on going to cultivate? I'll be cultivating here. Ming Feng said with a hint of envy. The world energy here isn't very dense. Let's go down. Lu Ming said. Go down? But my inscription stone. Don't I have it here? I haven't even thanked you for talking so much with me. Let's go down together, my treat. Lu Ming smiled. You're really inviting me? Then I won't be polite. Ming Feng was overjoyed and did not hold back at all. Ming Feng's young heart was true to his nature, and he was not so indirect. He took the lead and headed to the second level. The space on the second floor was no smaller than the first floor. The layout was almost the same as the first level, except that the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was richer. Lu Ming could almost feel the scorching spiritual energy of heaven and earth wrapping around his body continuously, as if it was going to drill into his body. The Earth Yuan Cave is indeed worthy of its reputation. And this is the outside of the secret room. If I cultivate in the secret room, my cultivation will probably increase 10 times faster than outside. Besides, it's definitely very useful to cultivate fire attribute martial skills. It's also very useful to comprehend the fire force. I've made the right decision to come here today. This is only the second level, but the fire spiritual qi is already so dense. It is said that there are 13 levels in the Earth Cave. I wonder what it will be like if I go further down? Lu Ming pondered secretly. Big brother Tianyun, to open a secret room for cultivation for a month on this floor, you need 3 inscription stones. Ming Feng said. Continue down. Lu Ming smiled and headed to the third level. Ming Feng hurriedly followed. On the third floor, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth was even denser. On this floor, Lu Ming's eyes flickered as he saw 5 to 6 young men sitting cross-legged in the middle of the open space. Although the world energy qi in the open space outside was still quite rich, it couldn't be compared to the one inside the secret room. What were these people doing outside? Ming Feng seemed to have thought of something. His expression changed and he whispered to Lu Ming, I've heard from my sister that some people don't have spiritual crystals to exchange for inscription stones in the Earth Yuan Cave, so they rob other people's secret practicing rooms here. When someone opens a secret room, they'll seize it. Oh. Lu Ming nodded. It seemed that no matter where it was, disputes of interest were inevitable. Oh. Chapter 206. Chapter 206. Seizing the Secret Room. 549690339. Then he started to look around. There were more than 20 secret rooms in the surroundings. More than a dozen of them were lit up, and it was obvious that someone was cultivating there. There were 6 rooms that were dim. Lu Ming took a look and walked towards a secret room. The eyes of the 6 young men who were sitting cross-legged in the middle lit up when they saw Lu Ming walking toward a secret chamber. I've never seen this kid before. He's probably a hothead. Could it be that they just arrived? Haha, after waiting for several days, someone finally came to open the secret cultivation room. I'm going to seize it. The 6 young men thought to themselves. Big brother Tianyun. Ming Feng was a little nervous as he followed behind Lu Ming. After all, anyone who dared to occupy someone else's secret cultivation room here was definitely a ruthless person. Lu Ming did not care and took out 9 inscription stones. The secret room on the 3rd floor required 9 inscription stones to open. There were a few pits on the stone door. Lu Ming placed the 9 runestones into the pit. The stone door immediately flashed with light. Then there was a clicking sound and the stone door opened. Haha. This secret training room is mine. You're dreaming. I was the first to arrive here. I arrived 7 days ago. This secret chamber is mine. The one that came earlier was already yours? In your dreams. The secret cultivation room is the home of the strong. Get out of here immediately. When the door of the secret room opened, the 6 young men stood up and shouted one after another. They all wanted to take this secret room for themselves. As for the thoughts of Lu Ming, the party enveloped, they directly ignored them. One of them looked like he had just arrived. Who would care about his thoughts? Buzz, buzz. The sound of weapons being unsheathed could be heard. The 6 of them actually pulled out their weapons and started to face each other. If you want to fight with me, you're really looking for death. Boom. At this moment, one of the pockmarked young men's aura suddenly burst out. Judging from his aura, he had actually reached the 4th grade Great Martial Master realm. The other 5 young men's faces changed instantly. Lu Mozi, you've actually broken through to the 4th grade Great Martial Master realm? When did that happen? A young man shouted in shock. Ha ha ha, unexpected, right? I've already made a breakthrough, so let's see how you can compete with me. Get lost now. I need this secret chamber to consolidate my cultivation. Lu Mozi shouted coldly, and his powerful aura began to wreak havoc in the cave. The other 5 people's expressions were very unsightly, but they didn't dare to refute. Most of them were at the 2nd or 3rd grade Great Martial Master realm, and they were no match for a 4th grade Great Martial Master. Damn it, I've waited for 7 days and finally found a hothead. It seems like I've waited for nothing. A tall young man growled unhappily. He stepped back helplessly and stood to the side. The others were silent for a moment and then retreated. Ha ha ha. Lu Mozi laughed arrogantly and proudly. He then turned to look at Lu Ming and said, Brat, I want this secret room of yours. Also, hand over all the inscription stones you have and get lost. I'm in a good mood today, so I won't make things difficult for you. 4th grade Great Martial Master. When Lu Mozi revealed his cultivation, Ming Feng was no longer nervous. He mumbled to himself and looked at Lu Mozi with a strange expression. Lu Ming could easily take care of a group of 3rd and 4th grade Grandmaster geniuses with one move. What was Lu Mozi to him? Ming Feng had already started to mourn for Lu Mozi. So pitiful. Ming Feng muttered in his heart as he looked at Lu Mozi's arrogant expression. Are you sure you want to do this? Don't you want to think about it? Lu Ming looked at Lu Mozi and said with a faint smile. Nonsense, what's there to consider? Stop wasting my time. Lu Mozi shouted. If that's the case, then fine. Hand over your storage ring and get lost? Lu Ming said indifferently. Ah, what? What did you just say? Lu Mozi was stunned and thought he had heard wrong. Hurry up, I don't want to repeat myself. Lu Ming said. Ha ha, brat, you still want my storage ring? I think you're crazy. Let me cure you. Lu Mozi laughed out loud. He took a step forward and sent a palm strike at Lu Ming. Bang! Immediately after, the others heard a loud boom and saw a figure flying backward. He fell heavily on the ground and screamed repeatedly. It was Lu Mozi. The other 5 young men were stunned. Lu Mozi was defeated, and the key was that he was defeated too quickly. They did not even see how Lu Mozi was defeated. Buzz! Lu Ming moved like a ghost and appeared in front of Lu Mozi. He stepped on Lu Mozi's face, causing his face to fall heavily to the ground. Lu Mozi screamed. The other 5 young men felt a chill run down their spines and their teeth hurt. Expert, so he's a top expert. Thank God I didn't make a move just now. It's all Lu Mozi's fault. If it wasn't for him, I would be the one in trouble. I have to thank Lu Mozi. The other 5 young men secretly rejoiced, their palms sweating. Now hand over your storage ring. Lu Ming looked down at Lu Matzi and said indifferently, I'll pay. Lu Matzi shrieked in pain and handed the storage ring to Lu Ming while trembling. He simply wanted to die. He originally thought that he had picked up a bargain, but in the end he suffered a double loss. What a terrible loss. I won't come and occupy the secret room anymore. It's too much. Lu Matzi screamed in his heart. Lu Ming took the storage ring and moved his feet away. Get lost. Yes. Lu Matzi rolled and crawled, struggling to get up, and was about to go up. Gotcha. At this moment, the door of a secret room opened. Buzz. With a flash, a figure came out of it. It was a man in his 20s. He was wearing a black robe and had a cold expression. The moment he came out, he scanned the surroundings. Bai Long, it's Bai Long. The other young men's expressions changed drastically when they saw the black-robed young man. Who has the inscription stone? Hand it over now. My time in the secret room is up. I need to continue cultivating and break through a martial technique. Bai Long shouted, his eyes like lightning, and he didn't hide his powerful aura at all. A 5th-grade great martial master. This young man was actually a 5th-grade great martial master. Suddenly, Bai Long's gaze landed on the secret room behind Lu Ming. Haha. The secret room that just opened is perfect for me to use. Then he strode towards the secret room. Lu Ming moved his feet slightly and stood in front of Bai Long. This secret chamber is mine. Bai Long was stunned. He sized Lu Ming up and a cold smile appeared on his face. Yours? Then let me have it now. Although he said let, his tone was strong and domineering. It was a direct command. I'm sorry, I won't let you win. Lu Ming said indifferently. Not allowed? Kid, it seems like you don't know who I am. I'll say it again, I'm going to cultivate my martial skill in the secret room now. If I'm delayed by you and my martial skill can't break through, can you bear the responsibility? Bai Long said coldly. If you need a secret chamber, open it yourself. Don't grumble here. What does it have to do with me if you need to practice martial arts? Get out of here, I still need to practice. Lu Ming waved his hands as if he was chasing away flies. Oh. Chapter 207. Chapter 207. Chapter 207 Crippled with one move. 549690339. Bai Long's face instantly darkened. Haha, this kid, although he has some strength, he's really a hothead. He actually dares to speak to Bai Long like that. He's finished. Lu Matzi was about to leave, but he stopped at that moment. He laughed in his heart when he saw Lu Ming talking to Bai Long in such a manner, gloating over his misfortune. He would be lying if he said that he did not resent Lu Ming for what he did to him just now. It was just that he was not as powerful as Lu Ming, and could only swallow his anger. Now that he saw that Lu Ming had actually offended Bai Long, he was naturally overjoyed. He hoped that Bai Long would teach Lu Ming a harsh lesson. The others were the same, gloating at his misfortune. Kid, what did you say? Bai Long's face was cold as he asked in a deep voice. Are you deaf? I told you to get lost. Lu Ming repeated. Ha ha ha. Bai Long laughed out of extreme anger, and a cold killing intent exploded from his body. He glared at Lu Ming and said, Brat, it has been a long time since anyone has dared to talk to me like this in the outer palace. You are the first one. It seems like some ants are going to turn the sky upside down after I haven't fought for a long time. Today, I will give you an unforgettable lesson. With that, he took a few steps forward and appeared in front of Lu Ming in an instant. Boom! Bai Long's fist rumbled out, and a terrifying whistling sound instantly rang out. This punch was extremely shocking. The fist's force was so powerful that it could even shatter a mountain. Bai Long's lips curled into a sinister smile. He wanted to break all the bones in Lu Ming's body with one punch. In the world of martial artists, no matter where one was, strength spoke the loudest. It was extremely normal for one to draw a sword and kill someone if they did not agree with one another. I originally didn't want to make a move today, but there's a group of people who are looking for death. Lu Ming muttered and waved his palm at Bai Long. The moment he waved his hand, a long spear was formed. Buzz! The tip of the spear pierced through everything. and Bai Long's terrifying fist energy was pierced through like tofu. Ah! Bai Long screamed and quickly retreated. Lu Matzi and the others were shocked. They quickly looked at Bai Long and gasped. A hole appeared on Bai Long's fist, from which white bones could be seen and blood was flowing out. The hole went straight through his arm, as if it had been blasted open. It was extremely terrifying. Bai Long's body trembled non-stop. His face was pale and cold sweat was flowing down his face. He let out a low roar. With that little ability of yours, you still have that expression of blowing the sky up. I'm really speechless. Now you better get lost. Lu Ming shouted coldly. Brat, you're ruthless, but today's matter isn't over yet. Just you wait. Bai Long roared and fled the place in a sorry state. You're still here? Do you want to be like Bai Long? Lu Ming looked at Lu Matzi and the rest with a faint smile. The expressions of Lu Matzi and the others changed drastically, and they were almost scared out of their wits. Lu Ming was too powerful. He had crippled Bai Long's hand with one move. How could they afford to offend such a ruthless person? Go. I'll leave immediately. Lu Matzi shouted and quickly walked towards the stone stairs. The others followed closely behind. When they reached the second floor, Lu Matzi stopped. Lu Pozi, what's wrong? Haven't you been taught a lesson enough? You still want to stay and get abused? One of the young men sneered and gloated. Shut up. Lu Matzi shouted coldly. His face was extremely gloomy as he said, that kid is strong, but he's brainless. He even dared to hurt Bai Long. Now that Bai Long is injured, he'll definitely go back and ask his big brother Bai Qi. Once Bai Qi comes, this kid is dead for sure. Of course I'll stay and watch the show. As soon as he said that, the other young men's expressions changed. That's right. Bai Qi is one of the top 10 warriors of the Outer Palace. With him here, that kid is finished. I also want to stay and watch the show. The young men spoke one after another. They then sat down cross-legged on the second floor, waiting for Bai Qi to arrive. The third floor. Oh, Big Brother Tianyun, you're really too amazing. When will I be as amazing as you? No, it'll be good if I'm only half as amazing as you. Ming Feng looked at Lu Ming with admiration. Now Lu Ming was already his idol. As long as you work hard in your cultivation, you'll be able to catch up to me very soon. Lu Ming smiled and walked into the secret room. He sensed it carefully and shook his head. Although the fire-type spiritual energy in the secret room was rich, it did not meet Lu Ming's requirements. He needed to continue down. Ming Feng, you can use this secret room for your cultivation. Lu Ming said. For me? Big Brother Tianyun, what about you? Ming Feng asked. I want to continue going down. This place isn't very effective for me. Lu Ming said. Alright then, I won't stand on ceremony. Ming Feng's eyes lit up with excitement as he walked into the secret room. Big Brother Tianyun, I'll be closing my door to cultivate then. Ming Feng shouted. Seeing Lu Ming nod, he pressed a button and the stone door of the secret room closed. As for Lu Ming, he continued to go down. Soon they arrived at the fourth floor. The fourth floor required 27 inscription stones to open a secret room. In the middle of the fourth floor, there were two people sitting cross-legged. The moment Lu Ming came down, the two of them looked at him with ill intentions. It was obvious that they were also people who wanted to occupy the secret cultivation room. Lu Ming smiled faintly and did not take it to heart. Lu Ming pondered for a moment and shook his head. Then, he continued down and walked to the fifth level. The two young men's expressions changed. They watched as Lu Ming walked down to the fifth level. Their eyes flickered, but they did not follow him in the end. There were no weaklings who could cultivate on the fifth floor. In fact, many of them were students from the General Star Hall Inner Hall, and were experts at the 7th grade Great Martial Master realm or above. Lu Ming walked down the stairs. When he was close to the fifth level, the power of an inscription acted on him, preventing him from going any further. Lu Ming's body trembled and this force was destroyed. It seems like without a certain cultivation, I can't even cultivate here. Lu Ming smiled faintly. When he set foot on the fifth level, Lu Ming felt waves of scorching, violent fire-type spiritual energy surging in his surroundings, making his skin feel numb and itchy. No wonder there are inscriptions here. The fire spiritual chi here is too hot and violent. Ordinary people would die if they were to be hit by this spiritual chi. Weaker martial artists who cultivate here for a long time would even have their meridians burned. However, this spiritual chi is just right for me. Lu Ming pondered secretly. There were more than a dozen secret chambers around the 5th floor, and about half of them were occupied with people cultivating. There was no one in the open space. No one had occupied the secret cultivation room. Lu Ming walked to the front of a secret room and took out 81 inscription stones. That's right, the 5th floor required 81 inscription stones to open a secret room and cultivate for a month. Embed the rune stone on the stone door, and the stone door will release. Lu Ming opened the door and walked in. After he entered, he closed the stone door. When the stone door was closed, the walls of the secret room glowed with inscriptions, and the fire-attributed spiritual chi in the secret room became more and more intense. The inscription formation in the secret room helped to absorb and gather the spiritual chi between heaven and earth. The fire-attributed spiritual chi here seems to be surging up from deep underground. Lu Ming sensed it carefully. Oh. Chapter 208. Chapter 208. The Top 10 Experts of the Outer Palace. 549690339. There were 13 levels in the Earth Cave. The lower the level, the denser the fire element spiritual chi. It was said that the further down one went, the more spiritual chi there was, the deeper it would be. These 13 floors were not natural. The Burning Sun royal family had spent a lot of manpower to excavate them. However, even after exhausting all his efforts, he could only dig out the 13th layer. It was impossible to continue down. It was because no one could go down. It was said that the last 2 levels were opened up by a peerless martial king of the ancient Burning Sun Empire's royal family. No one else could even go down. Lu Ming had heard this from Ming Feng. What was below the 13th floor? Countless people in the Burning Sun Empire were wondering, but no one knew the answer. Lu Ming shook his head and stopped thinking about it. He sat cross-legged, activated the True War Dragon technique, and began cultivating. The surrounding fire-type spiritual energy was absorbed into Lu Ming's body. The hot fire property spiritual chi was constantly being transformed into genuine chi. The hot aura could also refine the genuine chi, making it more condensed. Lu Ming realized that the cultivation speed here was more than 20 times faster than the outside. 1 day of cultivation here was equivalent to more than 20 days of cultivation outside. Although the cost of 80 runes was terrifying, which was more than 2,400 spiritual crystals, the effect was worth it. This was especially so for martial artists who needed to break through their bottlenecks. If they came here, they would have a higher chance of breaking through their bottlenecks. Although Lu Ming's blood meridian was at the 6th level, the speed at which it devoured and absorbed spiritual energy was not inferior to that of a 9th level blood meridian. It was at a terrifying speed. Lu Ming circulated his spirit-devouring bloodline, and his body was like a whirlpool, constantly devouring the spirit chi of heaven and earth around him. Circulating his essential chi. The essential chi in Lu Ming's meridians transformed into tangible little dragons that swam in his meridians. The vortex in his dantian was spinning continuously, like a nebula. Just like that, Lu Ming immersed himself in cultivation. A few hours later, on the 2nd level of the Earth Cave. They're here. Suddenly, Lu Mozi's eyes lit up and he shouted. The others all looked towards the entrance. 2 figures walked in. One of them was Bai Long. At this moment, one of Bai Long's hands was wrapped in a thick layer of bandages. Next to Bai Long was a young man with a cold expression and a 50 to 60% resemblance to Bai Long. Bai Chi really came. Lu Mozi and the others looked at the young man with deep respect. Bai Chi, one of the top 10 experts of the Outer Hall, was a peak 6th grade great martial master. However, his combat strength was extremely terrifying. He could easily kill a 7th grade great martial master, and many inner hall students were no match for him. He was a top genius. They simply couldn't compare to him. Bai Chi glanced at Lu Mozi and the others, then went to the 3rd floor. Let's go down and take a look. Lu Matzi gritted his teeth and followed him down to the third floor. The others also followed. When Bai Qi and the others arrived at the third floor, they saw that there was no one there. Speak, where's that little bastard? Bai Long's eyes were extremely cold as he stared at Lu Matzi and the others. Fuck, we didn't know. We were also chased away by that kid. Lu Matzi's face changed. Looks like he's already in a secret room to train. Second brother, do you still remember which secret room it was? Bai Qi's voice was calm, but there was a hidden killing intent in it, causing Lu Matzi and the others to shiver. Oh, that room, that's right. Bai Long pointed at the room that Lu Ming had opened earlier. It was also the room that Ming Feng was cultivating in. Good. Does that kid think that hiding in the secret room will help? Even if he's hiding inside, I'll blast him out. Bai Qi sneered. Boom. Then he struck the stone door of the secret room with his palm. A violent tremor was heard. In the secret chamber Ming Feng was cultivating, suddenly an earth-shaking boom sounded. His body shook violently and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale. Who is it? Who's bombarding the stone door? Damn it! Ming Feng roared. Boom! Outside, Bai Qi struck out with his palm again, causing the stone door to shake. Lu Matzi and the others were shocked. Bai Qi was really bold. There was a rule in the General Star Hall that no one was allowed to bombard the door of the secret room, because doing so would easily cause the person inside to go berserk. But now Bai Qi completely ignored this rule. This was the confidence that came with being powerful. In the secret room Ming Feng gritted his teeth. However, the sounds of the attacks continued to ring out as if they were endless. An hour later Ming Feng couldn't take it anymore. I'd like to see who it is. I'm going to report him to the elder. Ming Feng growled, opened the stone door and walked out. Bai Long, you again. The moment he opened the stone door, Ming Feng saw Bai Long. You're finally out. Why are you here? Where's that kid? Which secret room? Bai Long said coldly as he stared at Ming Feng. Why should I tell you? Also, you attacked the stone door, which is against the rules of the General Star Hall. I'm going to sue you guys. Ming Feng shouted. However, before he could finish his sentence, he felt a strong gust of wind coming at him. The speed of this gust of wind was far beyond his imagination, and he could not dodge it at all. Pa! Ming Feng's face received a heavy slap. Ming Feng's body flew out. You talk too much. Tell me, which secret room is that kid in? Bai Qi asked coldly as he withdrew his palm. Fuck, I don't know. Ming Feng struggled to get up and shouted. You don't know? You still dare to be stubborn? Bai Qi's eyes were filled with cold killing intent. His body moved and he appeared beside Ming Feng. He stepped on Ming Feng's face, causing his face to collide with the stone slab. Do you know now? Bai Qi asked indifferently. Roar! Ming Feng roared like a wild beast and struggled in anger, shouting, I said I don't know, so I really don't know. If you have the guts, kill me today. Otherwise, I'll definitely take revenge. Big brother, looks like he didn't lie. I've checked the secret chamber that was opened here, and it wasn't open for long. I guess that kid went down. Bai Long said. He went down. Bai Qi frowned. It would be troublesome if they went further down because they did not know which secret room Lu Ming had entered. Without knowing which secret room it was, he didn't dare to randomly attack. This was especially true from the 4th level onwards, where everyone was an expert. If he made a mistake and provoked other experts, things would become troublesome. Bang! Bai Qi kicked Ming Feng away and said in disdain, A Master Realm Ant wants to seek revenge from me? Fine, I'll be waiting for you. After he finished speaking, he looked at Lu Matzi and the others and ordered, You guys stay here and guard. When you see that kid come out, report to me immediately. This MO. Lu Matzi and the others hesitated. What's wrong? You want to refuse? Bai Qi stared at Lu Matzi and the others with an unfriendly look, and his voice turned cold. No, we'll definitely stay here. As soon as that kid comes out, we'll report to you immediately. Lu Matzi hurriedly nodded in agreement. Bai Qi nodded and left with Bai Long. Oh. Chapter 209. Chapter 209. Coming out of seclusion, anger. 549690339. After Bai Qi left, Ming Feng spat out a mouthful of blood and his face turned pale. Giggle. Ming Feng clenched his fists so tightly that his nails dug into his flesh and blood oozed out. Bai Qi, if I don't get my revenge, I'm not a human. Ming Feng's eyes were red. He roared and staggered up, leaving the Earth Yuan cave. Meanwhile, Lu Matzi and the others were waiting there. 3 days later in Ming Feng's dormitory, Mingzhu and Ming Feng sat opposite each other. Bang! Mingzhu slammed the table heavily. Her face was dark as she said, Bai Qi, you've gone too far. Sister, I must take revenge for this. Ming Feng gritted his teeth. After 3 days his injuries were much better, but a few of his bones were broken, and it was not something that could be healed in a few days. Little brother, do you really want big brother to take action? Mingzhu asked. Not bad. Only big brother can take revenge for me. Ming Feng said. Big brother has been focusing on his cultivation, and has been keeping a low profile. That's why he's not listed in the top 10 warriors of the Outer Palace. But you and I both know his combat strength. He should be able to deal with Bai Qi, but big brother is in closed-door cultivation now. I'm afraid he has to wait for a while. Mingzhu pondered for a while and said. It doesn't matter, I'll wait for big brother to come out of seclusion. Big brother will definitely make a decision for me. Ming Feng said. That's good. Mingzhu nodded. Lu Ming had no idea what was happening in the outside world. He was focused on cultivation. Every day, other than cultivating the true war dragon technique, he would be comprehending the force of fire. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Lu Ming had gained a lot in a month's time. Cultivating here for a month was equivalent to cultivating in the outside world for more than a year. In nearly 2 years, Lu Ming had condensed his essential qi properly. Not only did he eliminate all the hidden dangers left behind by his rapid improvement in the past, but his cultivation also progressed steadily, step by step. He reached the peak of the 4th grade Great Master realm. Could not be helped. Lu Ming needed too much energy to increase his cultivation level. Lu Ming's main purpose was to lay a solid foundation. Hence the progress was very slow. However, his essential qi was full and smooth as one. He had already reached the limit of the 4th grade Great Martial Master, and was only 1 step away from the 5th grade Great Martial Master. Lu Ming was still very satisfied. His force of fire had also made great progress. Although it was still far from the great completion, it had been moving forward steadily, taking a big step forward from the foundation of the small completion. If you have time in the future, you should come here more often to cultivate. This is only the 5th level. The effects of the lower levels will definitely be greater. Lu Ming pondered. Then the stone door opened. It was time and Lu Ming walked out. Then he went up. When he reached the 3rd level, Lu Ming was slightly stunned because Lu Matzi and the rest were still there. It's that kid. He's out. The eyes of Lu Matzi and the rest lit up when they saw Lu Ming. You really haven't changed. Lu Ming muttered and looked at the secret room at Bright Peak. The stone door was dim, and it was obvious that no one was cultivating inside. He should have arrived at Ming Feng's secret room just a few minutes earlier than me. If he came out, he should have waited for me. Could it be that he came out early? Lu Ming was thinking in his heart. Something's wrong. Lu Ming's eyes suddenly flashed. He saw some faint palm prints on the stone door of the secret chamber. Although the palm print was very faint, it could not escape Lu Ming's eyes. Lu Ming remembered that there was definitely no such thing before. Did something happen to Ming Feng? Lu Ming's eyes flickered. He suddenly turned around and looked at Lu Matzi and the rest. Stop right there. At this moment, Lu Matzi and the rest were about to slip away. Lu Ming shouted loudly. Everyone was so frightened that their faces turned pale and they could only stop. Let me ask you, where are the people in this secret chamber? The young man who came with me? Lu Ming asked coldly. We don't know about that. Lu Matzi's eyes flickered as he stuttered. There's definitely something going on. The expressions of Lu Matzi and the rest made Lu Ming even more certain. Tell me what happened. If you don't tell me, you can't leave. A cold glint flashed in Lu Ming's eyes, and a murderous aura burst out. Lu Mozi and the others shivered and were scared to death. Finally they told him everything. Boom! An extremely powerful aura burst out from Lu Ming's body. His violent essential qi was wreaking havoc in the cave. Bailong Bai Qi, damn you! Lu Ming said in a low voice. His voice was extremely cold. Speaking of which, Ming Feng was still implicated by him. This debt, he definitely had to get it back for Ming Feng. Big brother, this has nothing to do with us. We are here because of Bai Qi. Lu Mozi said, trembling. Cut the crap. Lead the way to Bai Qi's residence. Lu Ming shouted coldly. Ah! Lu Mozi and the rest were stunned. Then they looked shocked. Lu Ming was going to find trouble with Bai Qi directly. Good, this kid is really arrogant. Bring him to Bai Qi and let Bai Qi teach him a lesson. It will also help me vent my anger. Lu Mozi thought to himself and then quickly nodded in agreement. Then Lu Mozi and the rest brought Lu Ming to Bai Qi's residence. More than 10 minutes before Lu Ming ended his cultivation, a tall young man with a saber on his back walked into Ming Feng's dormitory. Ha ha ha, little brother, you've finally joined the General Star Hall. Big brother has been busy cultivating and didn't come to see you. Don't blame big brother. The young man burst into laughter as soon as he entered Ming Feng's room. Ming Zhu was beside the young man. Big brother, you've come out of seclusion. When Ming Feng saw the young man, he shouted in joy. And I've come out of seclusion. Long time no see. Let me see if your cultivation has improved. The young man had a smile on his face as he sized up Ming Feng. With one look, his expression changed slightly, and he said, little brother, you were injured some time ago? As the saying goes, it takes 100 days to recover from a serious injury. A month ago, Ming Feng had many of his bones broken. Even if his cultivation was not weak, a month's time was not enough for him to recover to his peak. Naturally, the young man could tell at a glance. Big brother, you have to help me. Ming Feng immediately shouted. What's going on? The young man frowned. It's like this. Ming Feng then explained everything. Bai Qi, you're good. You're only ranked 10th among the top 10 experts of the Outer Palace, yet you're so arrogant. It seems that it's wrong for my Ming city to blindly cultivate during this period of time. It's time for me to move my bones and let people know how powerful I am. Ming Cheng's face darkened and he said coldly. Let's go. Take me to Bai Qi's residence. I'll take revenge for this. Ming Cheng waved his hand. Big brother, I know Bai Qi's residence. Ming Zhu said. The three siblings of the Ming family headed toward Bai Qi's residence. As one of the top 10 masters of the Outer Palace, Bai Qi's residence was completely different from the other students. He had his own courtyard, which was right behind the pavilions where the other students lived. Soon Ming Cheng, Ming Feng, and Ming Zhu arrived at Bai Qi's residence. Bai Qi, get out here! Ming Cheng roared. His voice rolled like the tide and spread far and wide, spreading throughout the entire dormitory area. Oh! Chapter 210. Chapter 210 Top Battle. 549690339. His voice rolled and spread throughout the entire dormitory area, causing the entire dormitory area to shake. What? Someone told Bai Qi to come out. Who is this person? Why are you so arrogant? Don't tell me he's one of the top 10 warriors of the Outer Palace? Bai Qi is ranked 10th in the top 10. Only the other top 10 warriors would dare to call him that. There's something interesting to see. Let's go and take a look. Suddenly, from the dormitory's pavilion, figures flickered and headed towards Bai Qi's courtyard. Soon, a circle of people appeared outside Bai Qi's courtyard, and the number of people was still increasing. Where did this blind dog come from? Are you looking for death? A loud roar came from Bai Qi's courtyard. Then, the gate of the courtyard opened and 4 or 5 figures walked out. The one leading them was Bai Qi, and Bai Long was at his side. It had been a month, but Bai Long's arm had not recovered yet, and it was still wrapped in thick bandages. At this moment, Bai Long's gaze swept across the surroundings. It was obvious that he was the one who had let out the roar. Then his eyes fell on Ming Feng. Little bastard, it's you. Why? The lesson last time wasn't enough, and now you're looking for death. Since that's the case, I'll fulfill your wish. Bai Long laughed savagely. Buzz. Slap his mouth. Suddenly Ming Cheng's body moved. In a flash, he appeared in front of Bai Long and swung his palm. They were so fast that even Bai Qi could not save them in time. Pa! Bai Long was sent flying by a slap. The scene suddenly fell silent. Isn't that the martial arts fanatic from Ming City? How dare you slap Bai Long in front of Bai Qi? Yeah, Ming Cheng is a martial arts fanatic. He cultivated into a demon before. I didn't expect him to be so bold. Bai Qi is going to lose his temper. I wonder if Ming City can deal with him? The surroundings were filled with the sound of discussion. Ming City, right? Do you know the consequences of this? Bai Qi's face was extremely gloomy as he looked at Ming Cheng coldly. Why didn't you think about the consequences of hurting my brother? Now I'm giving him a slap, which is considered light. Now it's your turn. Let me see what tricks you, one of the top 10 masters, have up your sleeve. Ming Cheng stared at Bai Qi, his eyes flashing with a crazy desire to fight. At the same time, a powerful aura burst out of his body. The aura of a peak 6th grade great master. Bai Qi's pupils slightly shrank, and then he sneered, so you're a peak 6th grade great martial master. No wonder you dared to cause trouble in front of my door. But today, I'll tell you that even though we're both peak 6th grade great martial masters, there's a huge difference in our combat strength. You'll regret what you've done today. Boom! A powerful aura also burst out from Bai Qi's body. It was also the aura of a peak 6th grade great martial master. The two auras collided, stirring up a gust of wind. Haha, then let's fight. Ming Cheng laughed maniacally. He unsheathed his saber with a terrifying saber radiance. The blade light turned black and rose into the sky, stirring the wind and clouds. 8 Desolations War Blade. Die! Ming Cheng roared and slashed out with his saber. A terrifying saber radiance slashed towards Bai Qi. As soon as the saber was used, a terrifying saber intent filled the entire area, and everyone felt a terrifying pressure. So strong. He's too strong. Someone shouted. Bai Qi's pupils suddenly contracted and he shouted, White Snake Dragon Palm. He struck out with his palm and the space trembled. A huge white snake formed and hissed towards the sky, charging towards Ming Cheng's blade light. An earth-shaking sound was heard and Bai Qi's body was shaken and he was pushed back. Ming City, on the other hand, did not move. Everyone present was dumbfounded. This martial arts fanatic Ming Cheng is actually so strong. Even Bai Qi was forced to retreat in one move. It seems that we have underestimated Ming City. Some people just don't like reputation, but they are not necessarily weak. Now it seems that the top 10 experts of the Outer Palace are not necessarily the strongest. Not bad. Of course, there were also people who opposed it. Bai Qi was just careless just now. He might not lose. It's too early to say this. Someone retorted. The crowd was in a heated discussion, but Bai Qi's face was extremely gloomy. Bai Qi, so this is all you've got. It's really disappointing. From now on, you can give me your title as one of the top 10 warriors of the Outer Palace. Ming Cheng laughed. The battle has just begun. It's too early for you to be happy. You're not qualified to defeat me. Dragon White Snake Palm. Dragon Transformation. Bai Qi let out a long roar and his genuine qi surged. His hands were filled with a thick white light. He struck out with his palm and a huge white snake appeared. Once it appeared, it changed rapidly and finally turned into a white giant dragon, pouncing towards Ming City. Dragon! He really turned into a dragon. Everyone's hearts trembled when they saw this. Bai Qi's battle power was truly shocking. Even a 7th grade great martial master wouldn't be able to withstand such a combat strength, let alone a peak 6th grade great martial master. I'll defeat you in 30 moves with just a small trick. Ming Cheng sneered. He held the saber with both hands and slowly raised it. At this moment a huge blade was formed. The huge blade was dark, like the scythe of the death god, and it slowly slashed towards Bai Qi. The huge blade and the white dragon clashed. The white dragon let out a long roar, opened its mouth and bit down on the huge blade. However, The giant saber shook violently, and the terrifying saber radiance shook the sky. Boom! In the end, the white dragon was defeated, turning into a wave of energy and dissipating. The giant blade did not stop. White snake dragon palm. One palm turning into 10 dragons. Bai Qi roared and clapped his hands. Roar! Roar! At that moment, 10 white giant dragons appeared and roared as they charged toward Ming City. 8 Desolations War Saber Fight! Battle! Battle! Ming Cheng's fighting spirit was shocking. He slashed wildly with his saber, showing the overbearing and powerful strength of a swordsman. At this moment, Lu Ming, Lu Matzi, and the rest had just arrived. Someone is fighting against Bai Qi. Who is it? It's actually so powerful? Lu Matzi gasped. That's Ming Cheng, the martial madman Ming Cheng. I didn't expect him to be so powerful. It's amazing. Fortunately, I didn't offend him before. Another youth said. Ming City? His surname is Ming? Lu Ming's expression changed. He swept his gaze and indeed, he saw Mingzhu and Mingfeng. I wonder what is the relationship between Ming City and Pearl Mountain? Lu Ming thought. At the same time, he walked forward and essential qi gushed out of his body. The people in front of him made way for him subconsciously. Lu Ming walked forward and stood in the crowd to watch. Boom! 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 The rumbles continued. Ming Cheng and Bai Qi had exchanged more than a dozen moves in the blink of an eye. However, Ming Cheng became more and more courageous as the battle progressed, and Bai Qi gradually lost. Ah! Bai Qi roared in anger, but it was useless. He was completely suppressed by Ming Cheng. 8 Desolations War Saber. Break the heavens and destroy the earth. Ming Cheng made the last strike. This strike contained all of Ming Cheng's fighting spirit. This blade seemed to be able to destroy everything. As the saber slashed down, Bai Qi roared and retreated rapidly. Everyone saw a wound appear on Bai Qi's body, and blood was flowing out. Bai Qi's face was pale. He had lost. Oh! Chapter 211. Chapter 211. A Soft Persimmon. 549690339. Ming Cheng, the martial madman who was usually low-key and only knew how to cultivate, actually had such strong strength. If he said he would defeat Bai Qi in 30 moves, then he really meant it. It was beyond everyone's expectations. Bai Qi, is this your true strength? You're really disappointing. From now on, you'll be removed from the top 10 experts, and your ranking will be inherited by me. Ming Cheng shouted. Bai Qi gritted his teeth, his face ashen, but he could not refute. He was originally ranked 10th in the top 10 experts. Now that he was defeated, he naturally should withdraw from the top 10 experts, ranking and be replaced by Ming Cheng. Also, you don't have the right to stay in this courtyard anymore. I'll give you 3 days to move out. Ming Cheng laughed. What? Don't you go too far. Bai Qi roared. Bullying? Why didn't you think that way when you hit my brother? You just think that you're strong enough to bully others, but now that I'm stronger than you, what's wrong with that? Ming Cheng was very domineering and sneered. You! Bai Qi was furious, but he had nothing to say. Haha, second sister, little brother, let's go. Ming Cheng laughed and turned to leave. Humph, why aren't you cocky now? You're just a piece of trash. Ming Feng pouted and looked at Bai Qi and Bai Long with disdain. Bai Qi and Bai Long were so angry that their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. The 3 Ming siblings passed through the crowd. The people around them gloated at Bai Qi's misfortune when they saw him in such a sorry state. The Bai brothers had offended many people. What are you looking at? If you keep looking, I'll dig out your eyes. Bai Long roared as he scanned the crowd. The surrounding crowd couldn't help but lower their heads, but their hearts were filled with disdain. Why weren't they arrogant in front of Ming Cheng just now? Now that Ming Cheng had left, they began to be arrogant. Bai Long's gaze swept across the entire scene. Suddenly, his eyes widened, and a ferocious look appeared on his face. He pointed in Lu Ming's direction and shouted, "It's you, you little bastard. It's all your fault. Big brother, the one who injured me that day was this bastard." Bai Long pointed at Lu Ming and shouted, The people around Lu Ming were shocked. They hurriedly took a few steps back to distance themselves from Lu Ming. In this way, Lu Ming was exposed. Is this the kid? Bai Qi's eyes were filled with cold killing intent as he looked at Lu Ming. Yes, at this moment, his killing intent towards Lu Ming was extremely strong. He felt that the reason why he ended up in this state, being defeated by Ming Chang in public and being humiliated ruthlessly, was all because of Lu Ming. If Lu Ming had not injured Bai Long, he would not have gone to the Earth Aeon Cave to cause trouble for Lu Ming. He would not have injured Ming Peak and attracted Ming City here. At this moment he blamed everything on Lu Ming. His desire to kill Lu Ming was stronger than Ming Chang. Damn it, this brat should die. Bai Qi roared. Senior Bai, we've brought you the kid you wanted. At this time Lu Posey squeezed out of the crowd and walked toward Bai Qi. Little bastard, come here, kneel down, kowtow to me 100 times in front of everyone, and admit your mistake. Hurry up. Bai Qi pointed at Lu Ming and shouted. He wanted to get back at Lu Ming for the humiliation he had suffered today. He also wanted to let others know that he, Bai Qi, was still a strong person that everyone respected. Lu Ming's lips suddenly curled into a cold smile. How could he not see through Bai Qi's thoughts? He was treating him as a soft persimmon. However, was Lu Ming a pushover? Lu Ming took a step forward casually and looked at Bai Long. What's wrong? Wasn't it enough to be taught a lesson back then? Now you want to be abused again? A sinister expression appeared on Bai Long's face, and he said, Kid, what you did to me, I will take it back 10 times. 10 times? With just you, or with you, the big brother who was easily defeated just now? Lu Ming smiled faintly and cast a glance at Bai Qi. In an instant Bai Qi's expression changed. It became extremely ugly. The muscles on his face trembled and his eyes revealed an extremely cold killing intent. He regarded the matter earlier as a great humiliation, but Lu Ming still brought it up now? This was the scar of receiving him in public. Gasps could be heard from the crowd. Lu Ming is too bold. How dare he say that to Bai Qi in public? It's over. Everyone thought. Lu Ming is finished. Bai Qi will never let him off. As expected, Bai Qi's expression was ferocious. He looked at Lu Ming and said in a cold voice, Little bastard, if I don't break all the bones in your body today, I won't be called Bai Qi. Just call me an idiot. It's easy to say, isn't it? It's also a good match for you. Lu Ming said with a smile. Ah, you're looking for death. Bai Qi could not hold it in any longer. He roared and pounced at Lu Ming. White Snake Dragon Palm. Bai Qi used his ultimate move as soon as he attacked. A huge white dragon roared and pounced at Lu Ming. A sharp aura gushed out and filled the entire area. Many people felt the terrifying pressure and retreated with a change in expression. Although Bai Qi had been defeated by Ming Chang, he was not seriously injured. His strength had not weakened, and he was still extremely terrifying. Everyone was shocked. They all knew that the reason Bai Qi was easily defeated by Ming Chang was not because Bai Qi was weak, but because Ming Chang was too strong. That brat wouldn't be turned into a meat pie with a single palm strike, right? Many people had the same thought. Small tricks. A faint voice came out of Lu Ming's mouth. Then Lu Ming's hand glowed and a long spear was condensed. He swept the spear. Bang! The long spear swept across the white dragon, directly shattering it into pieces. Bai Qi let out a muffled groan and his expression changed drastically. He quickly retreated more than 10 steps before he could stabilize his body. This. The crowd was dumbfounded, their eyes wide as they watched this scene. He retreated. The White Scarlet residents retreated after Lu Ming's one move. How was this possible? Some of them even rubbed their eyes hard, thinking that they had seen wrong. What dragon transformation palm? I think it's more like insect transformation palm. Lu Ming said indifferently. Take my move. Bai Qi was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He roared and continued to pounce on Lu Ming. White Snake Dragon Palm. One palm turning into 10 dragons. Bai Qi's palms were sent out continuously, using the strongest move he had used in the fierce battle with Ming Chang. I'll defeat you in 3 moves. Lu Ming let out a long howl and with a move of his hand, the demon-subduing spear appeared in his hand. Whoosh! Whoosh! Lu Ming thrust his spear forward and the demon-subduing spear turned into 10 spear shadows. It was so fast that it was as if 10 bolts of lightning had appeared in the sky. After that, there were 10 loud explosions in the sky. The 10 white giant dragons that Bai Qi had blasted out were all defeated by Lu Ming. This is the first move. Next, the second move. Before the crowd could be shocked, Lu Ming immediately executed his second move. Whoosh! The pitch-black demon-subduing spear pierced through the air and instantly stabbed toward Bai Qi. So fast. It's too fast. Bai Qi shouted in fear. He used all of his strength and struck out dozens of palm strikes in an instant. The terrifying power covered the area in front of him. Oh! Chapter 212. Chapter 212. Chapter 212 3 moves. 549690339. But dash. Lu Ming's long spear pierced through and the palm force collapsed. Bai Qi's expression changed drastically as he frantically kicked his back leg. Buzz! Buzz! Outside of the crowd, Ming Chong, Ming Zhu and Ming Feng returned and flew over at top speed. It was obvious that they had heard the commotion and returned. That's Big Brother Tianyun. Big Brother Tianyun is too strong. He actually forced Bai Qi to retreat. Ming Feng shouted in surprise. Ming Zhu also looked on in surprise. Ming Cheng's eyes were filled with shock. The third move. A faint voice came out of Lu Ming's mouth again. Whoosh! The third spear thrust out. The tip of the spear glowed with a faint green light. It was agile, ethereal, and extremely sharp. The space seemed to have been pierced through, and a blue mark appeared. Only traces could be seen, no gun could be seen. It was too fast. Poochie! Before Bai Qi could even react, the tip of Lu Ming's spear had pierced through his shoulder, causing him to fall to the ground. Everyone was stunned. He didn't even have time to react. Arg! Ah! It was not until Bai Qi let out a shrill scream that everyone came to their senses. CSI! Immediately, gasps of shock could be heard. 3 moves. It was really 3 moves. Lu Ming nailed Bai Qi to the ground. Too strong, he was simply too strong. Everyone was roaring in their hearts. Even an idiot could tell that Bai Qi had no way of fighting back in Lu Ming's hands. Where did this young man come from? Wasn't his strength too terrifying? Today they had defeated Bai Qi in 30 moves in Ming City, to let everyone know that the so-called top 10 experts of the Outer Palace were not invincible. There were many hidden experts in the Outer Palace. Then Lu Ming's next move was even more exaggerated. He nailed Bai Qi to the ground in 3 moves. It made people even more convinced that there were many experts hidden in the Outer Palace. Force, that's force. He just used the force of wind. Suddenly someone shouted. There was no lack of experts in the outer hall. Naturally, there were people who recognized the force of the wind that Lu Ming had displayed. Lu Ming had indeed cast the force of the wind just now. Lu Ming cast the force of the wind and the speed of his spear was extremely fast. What? It was actually the force of the wind? He's so young, and his cultivation is only at the Great Martial Master realm, but he's already comprehended force. Terrifying. Genius, a peerless genius. Even in the 5 great sects, he's a rare peerless genius. There was a heated discussion in the surroundings. Everyone looked at Lu Ming in shock. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Wind force was only something he had comprehended some time ago. If everyone knew that he had also comprehended fire force, and that it had already reached small success, who knew how shocked they would be? Force? Big Brother Tianyun has actually comprehended force? In the crowd, Ming Feng's mouth was wide open in shock. Second sister, little brother, is he the Tianyun you were talking about? He's indeed a top genius. Haha, I'll definitely find him to spar with in the future. Ming Chung grinned, his eyes shining with excitement. How could this be? How did this happen? It's impossible, impossible. Bai Long looked at this scene in a daze. His eyes were filled with disbelief, and he kept muttering to himself as if he couldn't accept this. Nothing is impossible. There are so many geniuses and experts. What can you and your brother do? Lu Ming said indifferently. He really didn't put a genius like Bai Qi in his eyes. He estimated that Bai Qi's level of talent would be about the same as the top 10 on the bronze list if he were in the mystical sword sect. With his current combat strength, it was not difficult for him to fight a genius of this level who was several levels higher than him. Ah! Bai Qi roared and struggled with all his might, his eyes showing a humiliated expression. What are you shouting for? I forgot to tell you that I have a strong point, and that is that I like to return everything that others want to do to me. Just now you threatened to break all the bones in my body. Lu Ming chuckled. His voice wasn't loud, but it was cold enough to make people shiver. Bai Qi's eyes were filled with fear and he shouted, "No, don't." Buzz! Lu Ming's palm shook and the long spear trembled. A powerful force gushed out of the long spear and rushed into Bai Qi's body. An NBSP. Ka. The sound of beans being fried came from Bai Qi's body. Bai Qi let out a shrill scream. All the bones in his body were crushed by Lu Ming in an instant. Everyone was shocked, and then a bone-piercing chill spread from their backs. Ruthless, he was too ruthless. Lu Ming had actually broken Bai Qi's bones. However, a large number of people were very pleased and completely acknowledged Lu Ming. This was how martial artists should be. Lu Ming's eyes were calm and he did not look like he could not bear to do it. If he were to lose today and fall into Bai Qi's hands, Bai Qi would definitely break his bones. If he wasn't ruthless, others would be ruthless to him. In this world, the weak were prey to the strong. Big brother. On the side, Bai Long's body was trembling non-stop. His face was pale and bloodless, and even his voice was trembling. Lu Ming's gaze swept across him. Bai Long shouted no, and fell limply to the ground. Get lost. Lu Ming shouted coldly. Bai Long's body trembled, and he struggled to his feet, trying to run out. Get back here and take your big brother away. Lu Ming berated. Bai Long hurriedly ran back, supported by Qi, and staggered away. Big brother Tianyun, you're really too amazing. I really admire you. At this moment, Ming Feng shouted and squeezed through the crowd. He ran towards Lu Ming, followed by Ming Zhu and Ming Cheng. Ming Feng, it's all my fault that you were injured by Bai Qi. Lu Ming said. How can you blame Big Brother Tianyun for this? It's just that my cultivation base is too weak. Besides, didn't Big Brother Tianyun teach Bai Qi a harsh lesson today and stand up for me? Ming Feng said. Cough cough. Behind Ming Feng, Ming Cheng coughed a few times. Of course my beloved Big Brother also taught Bai Qi a lesson and helped me vent my anger. I thank you, Big Brother. Ming Feng's eyes turned and he quickly smiled. You bastard. Ming Cheng laughed and scolded him. He then looked at Lu Ming, cupped his fists and said, I am Ming Cheng, the big brother of Ming Zhu and Ming Feng. I've just heard the two of them talk about you. I didn't expect Brother Tianyun to be such a peerless genius. I truly admire you. Brother Ming is too kind, I was just lucky. Lu Ming said with a smile. There's no need for Brother Tianyun to be so modest. How about this, let's have a sparring match some other day, how about that? Ming Cheng looked at Lu Ming with anticipation. Ming Zhu and Ming Feng revealed an expression that said, as expected. Sure. Lu Ming did not refuse. Good, that's great. Haha. Ming Cheng laughed. Let's go. It's fate that we're able to meet Brother Tianyun today. Let's have a good drink. It's my treat. Ming Cheng laughed. Lu Ming did not reject her. It was always good to make more friends in the imperial capital. The few of them found a restaurant and had a good drink. When they returned, it was already late at night. The night passed uneventfully. The next morning, an old man came to Lu Ming's dormitory. Tianyun, my young master would like to see you. The old man said. Oh. Chapter 213. Chapter 213, The Eighth Prince. 549690339. Your young master. Lu Ming was stunned. Who would invite him? Could it be another student from the General Stars Hall? Lu Ming frowned and wanted to refuse. Young Master Tianyun, you don't have to reject him so quickly. My young master said that he's an old friend of yours. The old man said with a smile. An old friend? Lu Ming was even more puzzled. He didn't have any old friends in the capital. Suddenly Lu Ming thought of a person, Hua Qi. However, he was currently in disguise and had changed his name to Tianyun. How could he possibly be Hua Qi? Lu Ming was very curious. All right, I'll go with you. Lu Ming pondered for a moment and nodded. Please. The old man smiled. Lu Ming and the elder left the General Star Hall. There was already a luxurious carriage waiting at the entrance. The horse in the carriage was not an ordinary horse, but a flood dragon horse. It had a strong body, a single horn on its head, and its entire body was covered in scales. Legend had it that the flood dragon horse had the bloodline of a flood dragon, and could travel 100,000 li in a day. It was an extremely precious mount. But this carriage was pulled by 3 Wrm horses. The owner of the carriage was definitely not an ordinary person. After boarding the carriage, the coachman shouted, and the carriage rushed out like a whirlwind. Lu Ming sat in the carriage. It was very stable and he did not feel any bumps at all. The old man sat opposite Lu Ming and did not say a word. He closed his eyes to rest. Soon the carriage stopped. We're here. Young Master Tianyun, please. The old man opened his eyes and smiled. Lu Ming nodded and got off the carriage. However, he was shocked by the scene in front of him. They stopped in a wide square. There were many carriages parked in the square. Each carriage was very luxurious, and most of them were pulled by rare beasts. In front of the square was a very majestic building with high walls that were resplendent. Rows of armored soldiers patrolled on the high wall and the gate. Each soldier gave off a strong aura. This is the Imperial Palace. Lu Ming's eyes flickered and he was slightly shocked. Young Master Tianyun, please. The old man raised his hand and said, Who is your young master? Lu Ming frowned and asked again. The old man smiled gently. I won't hide it from young Master Tianyun. My young master is the 8th prince. The 8th prince. Lu Ming was stunned. He did not know any 8th prince. Young Master Tianyun, please. The old man said again. All right. Lu Ming had an idea and then said. Regardless of whether he was the 8th prince or not, Lu Ming was not a timid person. He followed the old man and easily walked through the palace gate. The imperial palace was simply too large, and there were countless pavilions and pagodas. The guards in iron armor patrolled back and forth, keeping a tight watch. Lu Ming could also vaguely sense that there were many powerful auras hidden within. They were like sleeping true dragons. Once they erupted, it would be extremely terrifying. Lu Ming's heart trembled. It seemed that the royal family was not as weak as the rumors said. They were still very powerful and should not be underestimated. Following the old man, they made many turns and after a long while, they arrived at a courtyard. The courtyard was very large, with hundreds of flowers in full bloom, and the fragrance of the flowers assailed the nose. In the middle of the courtyard there was a small lake. The water was as clear as a mirror. There was a pavilion beside the lake. At this moment, there were a few exquisite dishes and wine on the jade table in the pavilion. In the pavilion, a slender figure wearing a purple dragon robe and a jade belt stood there. He placed his hands behind his back and turned his back to Lu Ming and the rest. He looked at the small lake and seemed to be deep in thought. The old man came to this figure and bowed. Your Highness, young Master Tianyun has arrived. The figure moved slightly as if it had reacted, and then slowly turned around. Lu Ming's pupils shrank when he saw the person's appearance. Hua Qi. This person was actually Hua Qi. Hua Qi was the 8th prince. Wasn't the surname Hua in the current royal family? However, there were so many people with the surname Hua in the world. He had never thought that Hua Qi would be a member of the imperial family, and the 8th prince at that. Lu Ming, long time no see. The 8th prince said with a smile. Lu Ming was stunned. He then cupped his fists and said, 8th prince, I'm afraid you've got the wrong person. My name is Tianyun, not Lu Ming. I was there when you fought with Bai Qi yesterday. Lu Ming, you may be able to fool others, but you can't fool me, Hua Qi said with a smile. Especially your temperament during the battle. How can others imitate it? Lu Ming smiled bitterly. Although he had changed his appearance, Hua Qi was all too familiar with his expression and voice, so it was naturally difficult to hide. Kachachi. Lu Ming's body wriggled and the bone armor moved. His body returned to its original shape. Then he reached out and wiped his face, revealing his handsome face. Hua Qi. I didn't expect you to be the 8th prince of the Burning Sun Empire. Lu Ming said with a smile. So what if he's the 8th prince? Hua Qi sighed. He then waved his hand and said, Lu Ming, come, please have a seat. Let's have a drink. The two of them sat opposite each other. Hua Qi poured wine for Lu Ming. Lu Ming did not stand on ceremony and finished the drink in one gulp. Lu Ming, I've heard about your situation. The mystical sword sect is really disappointing. Hua Qi downed his cup and sighed. Haha, what's there to be disappointed about? I'll annihilate the Duanmu family sooner or later. As for you, you're the 8th prince. I really don't understand why you've come to the mystical sword sect. Lu Ming laughed and asked. Hua Qi was silent. After a long time he sighed. Lu Ming, I'm sure you know a little about the history of the royal family and the current situation, right? Hua Qi said. Lu Ming nodded. The Burning Sun royal family used to be so powerful that even the 5 great sects had to tremble in front of the royal family. It's a pity that there was internal strife in the royal family, and their strength was greatly reduced. The sects rose up, especially the 10 Directions Sword School, who had rapacious ambitions. They took control of the former emperor and used the emperor to command the vassals. In the name of the orthodox lineage they commanded the world. That's why they were able to rise so quickly and become stronger and stronger. In the past 800 years, they dominated the Burning Sun Empire and became the strongest sect. However, the royal family is the legitimate one. We can't be controlled by a lowly sect like the 10 Directions Sword School. When he said this, Hua Qi's eyes flashed with an astonishing light. It was a sort of stubbornness and conviction. But soon after, he sighed and said, It's a pity that the citizens of the Blazing Sun Empire only know of the 5 major sections. Almost all the geniuses have been recruited by the 5 major sections. So the royal family established the General Stars Hall with the purpose of cultivating their own power. Lu Ming's eyes flickered and he asked. Not bad. Hua Qi replied. It's so obvious. Doesn't the 10 Direction Sword School know? Lu Ming asked. Of course the 10 Direction Sword School knows, but maybe they don't care and think it's useless. There's another reason. The royal family isn't to be trifled with. The 10 Direction Sword sect doesn't dare to go too far. Hua Qi said. You don't dare to go too far? With the current strength of the 10 Direction Sword School, it shouldn't be difficult for them to destroy the imperial family, right? Lu Ming asked. Oh. Chapter 214. Chapter 214. The Secret of the Royal Family. 549690339. Ever since he had come to the imperial city, he had felt that the relationship between the royal family and the 10 Direction Sword School was very subtle, unlike the legendary 10 Direction Sword School that completely controlled the royal family. The 10 Direction Sword School has the power, but they don't dare to. Although the royal family has declined, we are still orthodox. If the 10 Direction Sword School annihilates the royal family, the other 4 great sects will join forces and attack us. It's sad to say that the 10 Direction Sword School is not afraid of the royal family, but the other 4 great sections. Hua Qi sighed. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. So that was the case. However, the 10 Direction Sword School has the ambition of a wolf. They've been supporting their own people in the royal family, trying to slowly erode the resistance of the royal family. In the end, they'll achieve their goal of completely controlling the royal family. By then, everything in the royal family will really belong to the 10 Direction Sword School. Now the royal family is divided into 2 factions. One faction is determined to resist, but the other faction wants to rely on the 10 Direction Sword School. This is especially true for the Heavenly King's suppression. Hua Qi said through gritted teeth. Lu Ming listened quietly. He did not expect that there were so many secrets in between. Hua Qi clearly trusted him, which was why he had told him so many secrets. I originally wanted to join the mystical sword sect, and see if I could borrow their strength to fight against the 10 Direction Sword sect. Now, it seems that this method is not feasible at all. I might as well stay in the Imperial City and accumulate my own strength. Lu Ming, I have a request. I hope you can agree to it. Hua Qi suddenly bowed to Lu Ming. What are you doing? Lu Ming waved his hand and a surge of energy gushed out, lifting the pool. You're my friend. If you have something to say, just say it. Lu Ming said. Lu Ming, I hope that you can help me. Help me destroy the omnipresent sword school. Hua Qi's eyes flickered with astonishing killing intent. Help you destroy the 10-direction sword school. Lu Ming furrowed his eyebrows slightly. Lu Ming, I know that you're extremely talented and that you're a dragon among men. I'm sure you won't be trapped in a small place like the Burning Sun Empire in the future. You have a bigger stage to go on. I won't ask you to join the royal family. I only hope that you can give me a hand when you're strong in the future. Hua Qi said. All right, I promise you. Lu Ming pondered for a moment. First of all, Hua Qi was his friend. Moreover, his father, Lu Yuntian, was most likely in the hands of the 10-direction sword sect. If that was true, he and the 10-direction sword sect would become mortal enemies. They would have to face each other sooner or later, so there was no harm in agreeing to Hua Qi's request. Good, that's great. Hua Qi was ecstatic. He was well aware of Lu Ming's talent. As long as Lu Ming grew stronger, it was possible for him to become a martial king in the future. With Lu Ming's help, great things were in sight. Naturally, he was excited. Hua Qi moved his hand and a gold medal appeared in his hand. He passed it to Lu Ming and said, Lu Ming, you're now a member of the Star Cluster Hall. With this token, you can enter and leave the 7 cultivation sanctuaries of the Star Cluster Hall, as you wish without paying any fees. I can enter and leave the 7 cultivation sanctuaries as I please? Lu Ming's eyes lit up and he took the golden token without any hesitation. Also, what is Star Cluster Hall? Lu Ming asked. Hua Qi had a smile on his face, and he was clearly much happier. Lu Ming, the General Star's Hall recruits just about anyone. Their requirements are so low. Of course, they won't do it for no reason. When a person enters the General Star Hall, the Imperial family will send people to observe him and determine if he is from the 5 great sects and if he can be used by the Imperial family. After a series of observations, we will confirm that this person can be used by the Imperial family and has great talent. Then we will recruit him into the Star Cluster Hall. The Star Cluster Hall is the core of the General Star's Hall, and it will also be fully nurtured by the royal family. Many of the great generals guarding the border now came from the Star Cluster Hall, and they are also the trump card of the royal family against the 10-direction sword school. At this point, Hua Qi pursed his lips and continued, of course, the General Star Hall also has a core, and that is the Dark Star Hall. What? The Dark Star Hall belongs to the royal family? Lu Ming was shocked. The Dark Star Hall was as famous as the Shadow Wolf Pavilion, and was also one of the 4 major assassin organizations of the Blazing Sun Empire. Lu Ming had never expected that the Dark Star Hall actually belonged to the royal family. Lu Ming, very few people know about this. You must not tell anyone. Otherwise, the omnipresent sword sect might make a big move. Hua Qi said. Naturally, I won't say anything. Lu Ming said. In fact, 2 of the 4 major assassin organizations in the Blazing Sun Empire were trained by the 10-direction sword sect. They are the Blood Rain Tower and the Shadow Wolf Pavilion. The most mysterious underworld king mansion is also trained by the 10-direction sword sect. I don't even know who is behind them. Hua Qi said. What? The Shadow Wolf Pavilion belongs to the 10-direction sword school? Lu Ming was shocked. The Duanmu family had sent assassins from the Shadow Wolf Pavilion to kill him. He had thought that the Shadow Wolf Pavilion was the support of the mystical sword sect. He didn't expect it to be the Shifang Sword School's support. How could the Duanmu family move someone who belonged to the 10-direction sword school? Perhaps the Shadow Wolf Pavilion would do anything as long as they were paid, or perhaps the Duanmu family had an unclear relationship with the Shadow Wolf Pavilion, or perhaps the 10-direction sword sect. Lu Ming, have you discovered anything? Hua Qi asked. It's nothing. Lu Ming shook his head and did not share his guess. Hua Qi, I also have a matter that I need your help with. Lu Ming's expression changed and he suddenly said, "What is it? As long as I can help, I will do my best to help." Hua Qi said, "I need you to help me investigate a person. This person is my father." Lu Ming did not hide anything and explained that Lu Yuntian might be in the imperial capital and in the hands of the omnipresent sword sect. "I can't believe there's such a hidden story. Don't worry, Lu Ming. I'll use all my power to help you investigate. As long as Uncle Lu is still in the imperial city, I'll help you find him even if I have to turn the imperial city upside down." Hua Qi said firmly. "Many thanks." With Hua Qi's help, Lu Ming heaved a huge sigh of relief. He finally felt more at ease. Hua Qi was the imperial family's 8th prince, and he definitely had quite a bit of power in the imperial capital. With his help, it would be 1,000 times better than him investigating like a headless fly. Then the two of them drank and chatted. Very quickly, after 3 rounds of drinks, Lu Ming bade Hua Qi farewell. "Lu Ming, there's something I almost forgot to tell you. In 2 months, the royal family and the omnipresent sword sect will open a plain together to harvest the treasures and resources inside. In there, you can find treasures that are of great help to the awakening of a second bloodline." Hua Qi suddenly said, "A treasure that can help you awaken your second bloodline? Of course we're going." Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The awakening of the second bloodline was of utmost importance. Any treasure that could help with the awakening of the second bloodline could not be missed. "Okay, actually you've defeated Bai Qi, so you'll definitely have a spot," Hua Qi said with a smile. Lu Ming took his leave and returned to Tianyun's appearance before returning to the General Star's hall. "I hope I can get news of father as soon as possible." Lu Ming sat cross-legged on the bed, deep in thought. He had a vague feeling that although the Blazing Sun Empire seemed to be calm right now, there were undercurrents surging in the dark. There were disputes between various parties, and he did not know when they would erupt. He had to find Lu Yuntian as soon as possible. He also had to increase his strength. Oh. Chapter 215. Chapter 215. Borrowing the Wind to Cultivate. 549690339. The next morning, Lu Ming walked out of the room. This time his target was God Wind Valley. If he were to enter the dimension 2 months later, he would definitely encounter the top geniuses of the omnipresent sword school. He had to improve his strength as soon as possible. But now there was still a long way to go before he could reach the profound level of fire force. 2 months was far from enough, even if he cultivated in the earth cave. It was better to fully comprehend wind force. If wind force could reach small success, then his battle strength would increase sharply in a short time. Godwind Valley was a huge valley in the north of General Star Hall. That's right, this wasn't a valley but a stretch of valleys. Among them, the valleys were densely packed and crisscrossed, and there were many of them. If one were to look down from the sky, one would be able to see that these valleys seemed to have been created by a peerless expert with a flurry of slashes. In these valleys, the wind whistled and tornadoes rolled. Some of the tornadoes could even tear steel into pieces. It was extremely terrifying. However, it was also the best place to cultivate wind attribute martial techniques, and even comprehend the force of the wind. When Lu Ming arrived at the entrance of the Divine Wind Valley, he could hear the whistling sound of the strong wind. Lu Ming was not the only one who came. At the same time, a few other young men were there as well. It's 10 spiritual crystals a day to cultivate in the Godwind Valley. You'll have to go in for a few days. At the entrance of Godwind Valley, a brawny man looked at one of the young men and said coldly, 10 spiritual crystals for a day? Isn't that too expensive? The young man shouted, If you think it's expensive, then leave quickly. No one begged you to come here to cultivate. The brawny man glanced at the young man coldly, then ignored him and looked at the others. The others had no choice but to take out their spiritual crystals. I need to cultivate for 10 days. A young man took out 100 spiritual crystals and handed them to the brawny man. I'll take half a month. No, I'll take 10 days. The other young man took out 100 spiritual crystals with a pained expression. The brawny man's face darkened. He kept them one by one and registered them. How about you? How many days do you need? The strong man looked at Lu Ming. Look at this. Lu Ming moved his hand and the golden token that Hua Qi had given him appeared. The brawny man's expression changed as soon as he saw the golden token. He revealed a gentle smile and said, "Please come in. You don't need to pay any spiritual crystals. You can cultivate as long as you want." Lu Ming kept the token and smiled. It seemed that this token was really useful. Wait a minute, I'm not convinced. Why can he enter without using spiritual crystals? And he can cultivate as long as he wants. It's not fair. A young man shouted. Shut up. The brawny man coldly snorted as a vast aura rose from his body. He stared at the young man and said, "Didn't you see his token? With this token alone, his status is 10 times or even 100 times higher than yours. Also, don't talk about fairness in front of me. This world has never been fair. Everything depends on strength. If you don't have strength, then shut up." The brawny man shouted coldly, causing the expressions of the few young men to change drastically. They shut their mouths and dared not speak. They looked at Lu Ming with envy. Lu Ming smiled bitterly and touched his nose. He strode into the Holy Wind Valley. An NBSP, hoo-hoo. As soon as he entered the Divine Wind Valley, he could hear a terrifying whistling sound. Gusts of strong wind blew against his face, and Lu Ming's body was almost blown away. Lu Ming circulated his essential qi and a light flashed on his body. His body was as still as a mountain. No matter how strong the wind was, it could not move him at all. We've only just entered the valley, yet there's already such a strong wind. This place is indeed a good place to cultivate wind attribute martial skills and comprehend wind force. He didn't stop and continued to walk forward. Soon they reached the end of the valley. On the left and right there were 2 valleys and the wind was even more violent. Without thinking, Lu Ming chose the side where the wind was the strongest and walked. Just like that, Lu Ming turned left and right and walked through 7 to 8 valleys. Here the wind was so strong that it was already very terrifying. Strong gales swept through the air, even forming wind blades in the air. The wind blades were like knives, constantly hitting Lu Ming's protective true qi, causing waves of ripples. What a terrifying wind blade. The wind blade here is equivalent to a full force attack of a first-grade master realm. The many wind blades were like a large group of first-grade master realm martial artists that kept attacking Lu Ming. The essential qi in Lu Ming's body was being consumed rapidly. Not only can I comprehend wind force here, but I can also practice the ancient shield technique with half the effort. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Then 2 ancient shields were formed in front of him. Clang! Clang! The wind blades kept bombarding the shield, but the shield didn't move at all. It's not powerful enough. Go deeper. Lu Ming continued to move forward and the power of the wind blades grew stronger. It was equivalent to a full power strike from a 2nd-grade master realm, followed by a 3rd-grade master realm, a 4th-grade master realm. After Lu Ming had walked through more than 10 valleys, the power of the wind blades here was already equivalent to a full force attack of a 1st-grade grandmaster. An attack equivalent to a 1st-grade great martial master realm was terrifying. Even steel would be torn into pieces in an instant. Most importantly, there weren't just 1 or 2 wind blades here. They were densely packed and constantly bombarding the area. Clang clang. The wind blades struck the ancient shield, creating a series of metal striking sounds and sparks. The ancient shield in front of Lu Ming started to shake. In particular, 2 ancient shields were not enough to defend against the wind blades from all directions. Lu Ming was completely immersed in it. He kept controlling the ancient shield to fly up and down to block the wind blades while carefully sensing the changes in the surrounding wind. This meant that Lu Ming was cultivating the ancient shield art, while comprehending the force of the wind at the same time. Cultivating like this, the speed of improvement was terrifying. However, the consumption of Lu Ming's essential qi was extremely huge. Lu Ming's essential qi was much more condensed than ordinary people. However, he had no choice but to leave after cultivating for an hour. If it were an ordinary person, it would be impossible to cultivate like this. After leaving the place, Lu Ming comprehended the 3 palm strikes while recovering his essential qi. After his essential qi had recovered, Lu Ming entered the valley again and continued with his high-intensity cultivation. 1 month later, the ancient shield art broke through to the 3rd level. As for wind force, it was also improving rapidly. Although it hadn't reached the minor completion, it wasn't far away. As for the 3 palms, he had not cultivated it successfully, but Lu Ming felt that he would be able to do it soon. I've been cultivating for a month. I'm going out to rest for 2 days. After that, Lu Ming left the Divine Wind Valley. Not long after he returned to his residence, Ming Feng, Ming Zhu, and Ming Cheng found Lu Ming. Tianyun, everyone says that I'm a martial arts fanatic, but I think you're even crazier than me. You've been cultivating all day long, and I can't even see your shadow. Ming Cheng shouted at Lu Ming when he saw him. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. Big brother Tianyun, you're definitely going to enter the Blood Ant secret realm this time. Right? Ming Feng said. The Blood Ant secret realm. Lu Ming was slightly stunned. Then he had a flash of inspiration. Oh, could it be the plane that Hua Qi said he entered with the omnidirectional sword sect? Oh. Chapter 216. Chapter 216. The Blood Ant Secret Realm. 549690339. Big brother Tianyun, don't you know? He's really a cultivation maniac. Ming Feng pouted his lips speechlessly and continued. The Blood Ant Secret Realm is a plane jointly controlled by the royal family and the 10-Direction Sword School. It opens once every 3 years, and the 3-year period will be in a month's time. The General Star Hall has already issued an order that anyone above the 3rd grade Great Martial Master realm must participate. Anyone below the 3rd grade Great Martial Master realm can also participate if their combat strength has reached the 3rd grade Great Martial Master realm. Many 2nd grade Great Martial Master realm martial artists are cultivating with all their might, hoping to reach the 3rd grade Great Martial Master realm and enter the Blood Ant secret realm. After all, this is a great opportunity that no one wants to miss. Big brother Tianyun, how could you not know about it? After Ming Feng finished speaking, he pouted. As expected, it is the same thing as Hua Qi said. Lu Ming thought to himself. Of course I've heard of it. I'm going to participate. Lu Ming said with a smile. No martial artist above the 7th grade Grandmaster realm can enter the Blood Ant secret realm. With brother Tianyun's combat strength, you'll definitely have a great harvest. However, you still have to be careful of the people from the Shifang Sword School, because every time, the disciples of the Shifang Sword School will wantonly hunt the geniuses of the General Star Hall. Ming Zhu said in a deep voice. Humph, the people from the 10-Direction Sword School better not mess with me. Otherwise, I'll kill every one of them who comes. Ming Cheng snorted coldly, killing intent flashing in his eyes. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat and he asked, are 7th grade Great Martial Masters and above really not allowed to participate? Yes, I've only heard about it. It's said that the secret realm is a newly born plane, probably around 10,000 years old. The laws of heaven and earth are not perfect. The higher the cultivation, the greater the rejection. 7th grade Great Martial Master and above will be rejected as soon as they enter. Ming Zhu explained. I see. The corners of Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile. If 7th grade Great Martial Master realm and above couldn't enter, he wouldn't be afraid no matter how talented and strong the disciples of the 10-Direction Sword School were. Tianyun, I've been waiting for you for a long time. Come, let's exchange some pointers. At this moment Ming Cheng shouted. He stared at Lu Ming, his eyes filled with fighting spirit. All right, Lu Ming said with a smile. Then they found a wide space. A few minutes later. Tianyun, you pervert. I'm not going to fight with you anymore. I'm not going to spar with you anymore. You pervert. Ming Cheng screamed in pain. His face was bruised and purple. He looked at Lu Ming with a bitter expression. Lu Ming was speechless. He thought to himself, you are the one who insisted on sparring with me. Ming Feng and Ming Zhu were dumbfounded. This was the first time they had seen their big brother being beaten up so badly and screaming so miserably. He even shouted that he would not look for Lu Ming to spar in the future. This was really one of a kind. Don't, brother Ming Cheng. I've learned a lot from sparring with you. We'll continue another day. At most I'll go easy on you. Lu Ming said. I have a stomachache, so I'm going to leave first. Ming Chung almost burst into tears. He held his stomach and ran away, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Behind them, Lu Ming, Ming Feng, and Ming Zhu were dumbfounded. Is this still my big brother? I didn't get the wrong person, right? Ming Feng muttered. It's not that you've got the wrong person, or someone's too abnormal. The Pearl rolled her eyes at Lu Ming. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. Oh, during this period of time, the atmosphere in the General Star Hall was extremely intense. Everyone who had a chance of entering the Blood Ant secret realm was cultivating hard in the hopes of increasing their combat strength and obtaining greater gains in the Blood Ant secret realm. After resting for 2 days, Lu Ming returned to the Godwind Valley. He realized that there were many more people cultivating in the Godwind Valley. In the crisscrossing valleys of the Godwind Valley, one could see a figure every once in a while. Lu Ming went to the place where he had cultivated previously. There was no one there. No one could cultivate here. This was what Lu Ming wanted. No one would disturb him. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, it was time for the Blood Ant secret realm to open. Lu Ming left the Holy Wind Valley a day earlier. The next day, he and Ming Chung arrived at the General Star Hall's martial arts field. All the students from the General Stars Hall, who wanted to enter the Blood Ant realm, had to gather here. Soon, more than 120 people had gathered on the field. This was the total number of people from the General Stars Hall who had entered the Blood Ant secret realm. Each of them had a cultivation between the 3rd and 6th grade Great Martial Master realm. Whoosh! A few old men appeared in the air. I believe everyone knows a little about the rules this time, so I won't go into detail. I'll mainly talk about the most important points. One of the red-haired old men spoke. His aura was turbulent, and his voice was like a great bell. First, the Blood Ant secret realm opens once every 3 years. This time it's time for the Blood Ant eggs again. The Blood Ant eggs are the best materials for refining the blood refining pill. For every 3 Blood Ant eggs, 1 blood refining pill can be refined. As for you, as long as you hand over the Blood Ant eggs you obtain to the royal family, you will get half of them. In other words, as long as you hand over 6 Blood Ant eggs, the royal family will give you a blood refinement pill. Blood refinement pill, it's actually a blood refinement pill? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat and his eyes glowed with passion. Before a martial artist awakens his second bloodline, he would go through a process of accumulation. What would he accumulate? It was to accumulate the chi of the bloodline. The more concentrated the bloodline energy was, the higher the level of the second bloodline that could be awakened. The blood refinement pill was a treasure that could accumulate the chi of bloodline. Lu Ming finally understood. The treasure that Hua Qi had mentioned that could help him awaken his second bloodline was the blood refinement pill. It was not just Lu Ming. Everyone else present, including those geniuses who thought they could break through to the martial arts grandmaster realm, had a burning glow in their eyes. As long as he obtained 6 Blood Ant eggs, he could exchange them for a blood refinement pill. Second, I want to warn you that you must be careful of the disciples of the 10 Directions Sword School. Every time the secret realm opens, the disciples of the 10 Directions Sword School will hunt down the General Stars Hall. Killing and plundering are not forbidden in the secret realm, so you must be careful. The red-haired old man's voice sounded again. He warned with a serious expression. Humph, so what if they're geniuses from the 10 Directions Sword School? Why would I be afraid of them? Some of the students were full of confidence as they said. Alright, that's all I have to say. The rest will be up to you. Let's go to the Blood Ant secret realm now. As soon as the red-haired old man's voice fell, a few screeches were heard in the sky, and 8 huge gale eagles descended. These 8 windwalk eagles were much larger than the ones Lu Ming had seen in East Lacking City. As the gale eagle landed, everyone leaped into the air and jumped onto its back. With 8 long howls, the gale eagles soared straight up, heading north. The Blood Ant secret realm was located to the north of the imperial capital, about 20,000 miles away. It was said that the Blood Ant secret realm originally belonged to the royal family, but the 10 Direction Sword sect took over a part of the power and demanded an equal share of the Blood Ant secret realm with the royal family. Every 3 years, Both sides would send their disciples into the blood ant realm to harvest the blood ant eggs. Whoever obtained them would get them. This condition seemed fair, but it was not fair at all. Oh. Chapter 217. Chapter 217. Chapter 217 Yang Zitian. 549690339. The omnipresent sword sect was extremely powerful with countless geniuses and experts. Even the mystical sword sect paled in comparison, let alone the imperial family. Therefore, every time the blood ant secret realm opened, most of the blood ant eggs would be taken by the 10-direction sword sect, while the royal family would only get a small portion. The Gale Eagle's speed was extremely fast, and it only took half a day to cover the distance of 20,000 li. This was a rather desolate wild forest. There were bare rocks everywhere. Only a few trees and weeds grew sparsely. The Gale Eagle landed on a slightly flat area. The red-haired old man and the others were the first to jump down. The others followed suit. The people from the 10-direction sword school haven't arrived yet. Let's wait here for a while. The red-haired old man said. Everyone nodded. Oh. At this time more than a dozen figures jumped high up and onto 10 stone pillars on the side. He jumped onto the stone pillar and sat down cross-legged. Lu Ming could see at a glance that the person on the outermost stone pillar was Bai Qi. It's the top 10 experts of the outer palace. Could this be the border observing pillar? It must be him. But that Bai Qi still has the face to jump up. Ming Cheng and Tian Yun are much stronger than him. You're so thick-skinned. A wave of discussion broke out in the surroundings. The clairvoyant pillar. Lu Ming was puzzled. Brother Tian Yun, there's actually nothing special about it. It's just an ordinary stone pillar. It's just that it's better to be able to see the mystic realm from above, so it's called the realm-observing pillar. Every time, only the strongest can ascend it, and it's a symbol of strength. Ming Cheng explained. Oh, so that's how it is. Lu Ming nodded and then looked across. There were more than 10 stone pillars, but no one had jumped on them. That's the territory reserved by the 10-direction sword school. Those 10 or so overlooking pillars belong to the 10-direction sword school. Ming Cheng said. Lu Ming came to a realization. No wonder no one jumped on it. Then he looked at the person on the stone pillar. These people were the top 10 experts of the General Star Hall's outer hall. Bai Qi, you're really shameless. You actually have the face to occupy one of the observing pillars? Get down here immediately. Ming Cheng looked at Bai Qi and shouted. His voice spread far and wide, causing Bai Qi's face to turn red. Ming City. Bai Qi was filled with hatred and gritted his teeth, but he did not come down. Ha ha ha, Bai Qi, do you think that you are an expert just because you have it? You're really shameless. Forget it, I won't fight with you. If you want it, I'll give it to you. Ming Cheng waved his hand casually and laughed. Ha ha ha. Everyone else in the audience burst into laughter. Bai Qi was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Lu Ming smiled. He had no interest in such a battle for fame. He shook his head and found a place to sit cross-legged and wait. 10 minutes later, a few chirps resounded through the barren mountain. 3 giant golden birds appeared in the sky. The 3 golden birds spread their wings and covered the sky. They were more than 100 meters long and were extremely terrifying. Their wings were golden in color as if they were made of gold. A powerful aura spread out from them, as heavy as a mountain. A martial ancestor realm demonic beast. Lu Ming's expression changed. This is the little golden ROC. It's said that it has the bloodline of the divine beast, the golden-winged ROC. The 10-direction sword sect actually has such a strange beast, and there are 3 of them. The number 1 sect of the Burning Sun Empire is truly terrifying. Some of the academies in the General Star Hall cried out in shock. Caw! The little golden ROC cried out loudly, his voice piercing through the clouds as he descended. Haha! Hua Feixiong, you're early. A burst of laughter came from the little golden ROC in the middle. Then a few old men stepped down from the sky. Then a young man carrying a sword jumped down from the 3 little golden ROCs. There were both men and women among these young men, and all of them had dignified appearances and extraordinary auras. Each of them was like a divine sword, and the sword chi that came out of their bodies soared into the sky. There were more than 360 people. So many people. Everyone in the General Star Hall had a change in expression. The red-haired old man's expression was somewhat grave as he said, "I'm just a few minutes early." The leader of the 10 Direction Sword sect was a skinny old man. He glanced at the people in the Star Hall and laughed. "There seems to be a bit more people this time. Be careful not to let all of them die inside. Otherwise, your General Stars Hall will suffer heavy losses after recruiting these people with great difficulty." The red-haired old man's face was gloomy as he coldly said, "Qiu Wuji, you don't have to worry about this matter." "Hehe, is that so? Then let's go and prepare together." Qiu Wuji laughed coldly. "Let's go." The red-haired old man waved his hand, and the other 2 old men followed him, flying into the depths of the barren mountain. Qiu Wuji and a few elders of the Shifeng Sword School also headed into the depths of the mountain. He disappeared in the blink of an eye. Buzz! Whoa! After the elders left, the figures from the 10 Direction Sword sect flashed, and more than a dozen figures jumped up the observing pillar. It was obvious that these people were the top experts of the 10 Direction Sword School. Although they were all 6th grade great martial masters, the aura they gave off was extremely terrifying. "Brother Tianyun, did you see the person on the first stone pillar?" Ming Chung said to Lu Ming. Lu Ming looked over. It was a handsome and cold-looking young man in his early 20s. He was dressed in a white swordsman's robe and carried a huge sword that was as wide as a palm on his back. He was just sitting there casually, but he gave off an extremely dangerous aura. Yes, even Lu Ming felt threatened. "Is this person very famous?" Lu Ming asked. "His name is Yang Zitian, a terrifying peerless genius of the 10 Direction Sword School. He ranked first on the bronze ranking when he was only in the Master Realm. He successfully comprehended the control force when he was in the 9th grade Master Realm and killed many Grandmaster Realm experts when he was in the 9th grade Master Realm. You must be careful when you meet him." Ming Cheng's expression was extremely serious. There were very few people who could make Ming City so serious. "The first place on the bronze ranking of the omnidirectional sword sect?" Lu Ming muttered. As the number 1 sect in the Burning Sun Empire, the 10 Direction Sword sect was ranked first on the bronze ranking, which was no small matter. Lu Ming's eyes flickered with fighting spirit. Of course, other than this person, there are a few other extremely terrifying people in the 10 Direction Sword School. Ming Chung said. "Ha ha ha, there are quite a lot of people from the General Stars Hall this time. 3 years ago, there were less than 100 people, but this time there are actually 120 people." At this moment, an ear-piercing sound rang out in the 10 Direction Sword sect. "Junior brother, you're wrong. What do you mean by 120 people? In my opinion, it's just 120 pieces of trash." Another voice followed. "Ha ha ha, senior brother is right. It's 120 pieces of trash. That's right. You're absolutely correct." The people from the 10 Direction Sword sect immediately burst into laughter. "What did you say? Who's the good for nothing?" Someone in the General Star Hall was furious and shouted. "Io, you're angry? Am I not right? 3 years ago, 98 people entered the General Star Hall, and only 23 came out. What are they if not trash?" A crooked-mouthed young man from the 10 Direction Sword sect walked out and looked coldly at the people from the General Star Hall. "This time you have more than 120 people. Don't all die in there." The crooked-mouthed young man continued to sneer. "Oh." Chapter 218. Chapter 218. I'll support you spiritually. 549690339. The crooked-mouthed young man from the 10 Direction Sword sect looked at the people from the General Star Hall with disdain. "Detestable. You actually look down on us." Everyone in the General Star Hall gritted their teeth and clenched their fists. "What are you looking at? If you want to fight, then come." The crooked-mouthed young man's gaze shifted, and he looked at the people from the General Star Hall provocatively. Contempt, blatant contempt. The eyes of the people from the General Stars Hall were spitting fire, but no one stepped forward. After all, the reputation of the 10 Direction Sword sect was not just for show. What a bunch of trash. The crooked-mouthed young man continued to provoke, full of ridicule. Damn it, I'm going to fight. Ming Cheng couldn't help but get up. Brother Ming, wait a minute. The other party is deliberately provoking us and trying to test our strength. Why should we fall for their trap? Lu Ming patted Ming Cheng and said. Ming Cheng sat down. Junior brother, I think you don't have to say anything. They're clearly a bunch of weaklings and trash. No matter what you say, no one will dare to make a move. A youth from the 10 Directions Sword sect called out. A bunch of trash. The crooked-mouthed youth clamored. You've gone too far. Today, I'll experience the skills of the 10 Directions Sword sect. Finally, someone from the General Stars Hall couldn't take it anymore. He shouted angrily and strode out. It's Mo Gang. He's about to make his move. Mo Gang's cultivation is at the 6th grade Great Martial Master realm, and he's ranked in the top 20 in the General Star Hall's outer hall. With him taking action, it's enough to see the strength of the disciples of the 10 Directions Sword School. Mo Gang walked out and began to discuss among the Star Hall disciples. Finally, someone with some guts has appeared. How about this? I'll give you 3 moves and I won't fight back within 3 moves. The crooked-mouthed young man looked at Mo Gang in disdain. There's no need for you to move, take this. Mo Gang roared as a mountain-splitting axe appeared in his hand. Mo Gang swung his mountain-splitting axe at the crooked-mouthed young man. The mountain-splitting axe slashed through the void, causing the space to tremble like waves. Even a mountain peak would be split in half if the axe were to land. All right. The people of the General Stars Hall cheered in their hearts. With such power, let's see how the crooked-mouthed young man will let me have 3 moves. But the next moment their faces froze. The crooked-mouthed young man spun the sword in his hand and drew a circle in the air. An invisible force of attraction was generated, and Mo Gang's battle axe was repelled when it came into contact with the circle. Bang! 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 At the same time, Mo Gang was forced to take 3 steps back. How is that possible? Everyone in the General Stars Hall was shocked. What a powerful defensive martial skill, Ming Cheng said with a serious expression. Black-grade high-level martial arts technique, 2nd stage. Lu Ming muttered in his heart. He could tell the level and maturity of the other party's martial arts technique. 2 more moves. I said before I won't fight back within 3 moves. The crooked-mouthed young man sneered, his voice filled with contempt. I don't believe it. Mo Gang bellowed furiously as he swung his axe again. This axe was even more powerful, but it was useless. It was still deflected by the crooked-mouthed youth's sword. How could this be? Is this crooked-mouthed young man the top genius of the 10 Directions Sword School? The people from the General Star Hall called out in disbelief. They suspected that the 10 Directions Sword sect had deliberately sent geniuses to attack them. You're thinking too much. Let me tell you, I'm nothing in the 10 Directions Sword School. There are countless people stronger than me. The crooked-mouthed young man said indifferently. Impossible. Take my 3rd move. Die. Mo Gang roared as his blood vessels erupted. The muscles on his majestic body bulged as he swung his axe toward the crooked-mouthed young man. Mo Gang had used all his strength in this strike, his strongest move. Break. Mo Gang's eyes were bloodshot. Break? Can you break it? The crooked-mouthed young man sneered. He rotated his sword, and his body was covered with circles of sword light. Clang! Sparks flew as Mo Gang's battle axe collided with the sword, and his body staggered backward once more. How could this be? How did this happen? Mo Gang roared. He found it difficult to accept. You piece of trash, die. Buzz. The sword light flashed like lightning. Quickly retreat. Someone from the General Star Hall shouted. However, Mo Gang's mind had been distracted earlier, and it was already too late for him to react. Poochie! The sword light pierced through Mo Gang's throat. Mo Gang roared before falling to the ground. Mo Gang had been killed. The General Star Hall's people fell silent, their faces grave. And you said you're not trash. Now the truth is right in front of you. If you're not convinced, you can come up and fight me. The crooked-mouthed young man's eyes swept around Binny. The people of the General Stars Hall were extremely humiliated. The other disciples of the 10 Directions Sword Sect looked at the people from the General Star Hall with disdain. What a bunch of trash! The crooked-mouthed young man's gaze swept around and finally landed on the 10 observation pillars. You get down here. The crooked-mouthed young man suddenly pointed at the white-red image on the 10th viewing pillar. Bai Chi's face suddenly stiffened. He squeezed out an ugly smile and cupped his fists. Senior brother, what are your instructions? His attitude was humble, hoping to win the other party's favor. This caused the others to feel a burst of displeasure. Unfortunately, the crooked-mouthed youth did not buy it and shouted, "Who do you think you are? Are you even allowed to call me senior brother? Get down here immediately. I'm taking your clairvoyant pillar." What? You want the boundary-observing pillar? Bai Chi was shocked and his face turned ugly. Don't go too far. Since ancient times, the Imperial family and the 10 Direction Sword School have distributed the gazing at the horizon pillars. This represents the glory of the Imperial family. I can't give it to you. On another observation pillar, a young man in a yellow robe roared. This young man was a member of the Imperial family. What kind of bullshit glory is this? Today you have to give it to me even if you don't want to. If you don't, I'll beat you up until you give it to me. The crooked-mouthed young man sneered. Bai Chi almost cried out. He was in a dilemma. If he didn't give it to them, it was obvious that he would have to face the disciples of the 10 Direction Sword School. However, if he gave it to them, he would be destroying the honor of the royal family. Everyone in the General Star Hall would cast him aside, and he would never be able to raise his head in the General Star Hall in the future. At this moment, he was so regretful that his intestines turned green. If he had known this earlier, he definitely wouldn't have been so thick-skinned as to snatch this observing pillar. Bai Chi, if you give it up, you will be a sinner of the General Stars Hall. There is no one in the General Stars Hall who is afraid of death. At worst we will fight. If we can't win, we will just die. I will support you in spirit. Ming Cheng yelled unkindly, pushing Bai Chi into the fire pit. Ming Cheng grinned and almost laughed out loud. I also support you in spirit. Lu Ming followed suit and shouted. Support your sister. Who needs spiritual support? Bai Chi roared in his heart. Lu Ming and Ming Cheng were clearly gloating. Senior brother, please enlighten me. Left with no choice, Bai Chi could only brace himself and cupped his fists at the crooked-mouthed young man. It seems like you're going to have a fight. Let me see what you're capable of. I know you're one of the top 10 experts of the General Star Hall. The crooked-mouthed young man sneered. Suddenly, his body moved and he pounced toward Bai Chi. Dragon White Snake Palm. Dragon Transformation. Bai Chi roared and struck out with his palm. Oh! Chapter 219. Chapter 219, Dragging Lu Ming into the Water. 549690339. A giant white dragon roared and pounced at the crooked-mouthed youth. Buzz! The sound of a sword rang out. The crooked-mouthed young man's sword chi was extremely sharp. With a slash of his sword, he directly cut off the head of the white dragon. Bai Chi's expression changed drastically, and he kept waving his palms. White Snake Dragon Palm. One palm can transform into 10 dragons. 10 giant dragons danced in the air. 9 Heavens Howling Sword. The crooked-mouthed young man slashed out with his sword, and the sword chi whistled as it collided with the white dragon. Boom! Boom! With 10 consecutive explosions, the white dragons were defeated one by one. Kill! The crooked-mouthed young man waved his sword, and a series of crystal-clear sword chi shot toward Bai Chi. White Dragon Snake Transformation Palm. Double the palm force. Bai Chi roared and waved his palms again. Roar! The giant white dragon roared and suddenly condensed into 20 giant white dragons. They roared and pounced on the crooked-mouthed young man. After a period of hard work, Bai Chi's martial arts technique had improved, and he could now shoot out 20 white giant dragons. He had wanted to take revenge on Ming Cheng and Lu Ming, but he was forced to use it now. Is this your limit? What a disappointment! The crooked-mouthed young man let out a long howl. He became one with his sword and soared into the sky. Wherever the sword Qi passed, the white dragons collapsed one by one. Arg! Bai Qi screamed and his body was thrown back. He fell heavily on the ground and coughed up blood. Buzz! The crooked-mouthed young man's figure moved and landed on the observing pillar where Bai Qi was. Haha, from now on, this gazing upon pillar belongs to the 10 Directions Sword sect. The crooked-mouthed young man laughed. Damn it, get down! The royal disciple from before shouted. Hee hee. Then you should also give up your clairvoyant pillar. At this moment, another disciple of the 10 Directions Sword School rushed out and pounced on the disciple of the royal family. Boom! Boom! The two of them engaged in an intense battle. This royal disciple was stronger than Bai Qi, but the disciple of the 10 Directions Sword School was also very terrifying. In just a dozen moves, the royal disciple was sent flying while vomiting blood. Another viewing pillar was seized by the 10 Directions Sword sect. How can he be so strong? Is this the genius of the 10 Directions Sword School? Everyone in the General Star Hall thought in despair. On the side of the 10 Directions Sword School, the geniuses standing on the gazing upon pillars had yet to make a move. Just a few geniuses with unknown rankings had defeated 2 of the top 10 experts of the General Star Hall's outer hall in a row, and it had been a one-sided battle. This caused everyone in the General Star's hall to be dumbstruck and lose all morale. The difference was too great. If he entered the Blood Ant's secret realm, how could he fight against the other party? Moreover, the other party had 3 times the number of people from the General Star Hall. What top 10 experts? They're all trash. I think I'll just sweep them all the way. The crooked-mouthed youth was extremely arrogant as he looked at the other 8 of the top 10 experts of the General Star Hall with disdain. The 8 people's faces changed slightly. Even the strongest few people had grave expressions. Even if they were confident that they could defeat the crooked-mouthed young man, they were afraid that the 10 Directions Sword sect would send someone stronger. That would be troublesome. Therefore, none of them made a move. Lu Ming sat cross-legged at the side, watching indifferently. He had just joined the General Star's hall, and did not have much sense of belonging to it. No matter how much the Shifeng Sword sect looked down on the General Star's hall, he was not interested in taking action. His main purpose here was to obtain the blood ant eggs in exchange for the blood refinement pills. He didn't want to get into trouble for no reason. Don't be so arrogant. There's someone in my General Star's hall who can definitely sweep you all away. Bai Qi suddenly shouted from the side. Eh? Everyone was stunned and looked at Bai Qi. He didn't understand why Bai Qi suddenly became so strong and dared to speak to the people of the 10 Directions Sword School like this. Brat, are you looking for a beating? The crooked-mouthed young man looked at Bai Qi. I'm telling the truth, Bai Qi said through gritted teeth. No matter how strong your school is, you can't defeat this man. Who are you talking about? Tell him to get out here. The crooked-mouthed young man shouted coldly. It's him. Bai Qi suddenly pointed at Lu Ming. An NBSP whoosh. Oh. In an instant, everyone's gaze turned to Lu Ming. The corners of Lu Ming's mouth curled into a cold smile. This Bai Qi actually wanted to kill someone with a borrowed knife. He deserved to be killed. It's him. His name is Tian Yun, a peerless genius of the General Star Hall. He can definitely kill you within 10 moves. Bai Qi shouted at the crooked-mouthed young man. Killing me in 10 moves? What a joke. I think you're crazy. Fine, open your dog eyes and watch carefully. Let's see how he can kill me in 10 moves. The crooked-mouthed young man sneered. He then looked at Lu Ming and pointed his sword at him. Brat, come out and fight me. The corners of Bai Qi's mouth curled into a sneer, and his eyes flashed with pride. He secretly admired himself for pulling Lu Ming into the water with just a few words. Let's see how you're going to die against the 10 Directions Sword School. Bai Qi sneered. A cold glint flashed in Lu Ming's eyes as he slowly got up. Although he did not want to cause trouble, he was not afraid of trouble. Idiot! This was the first sentence that Lu Ming said to the crooked-mouthed youth. What? What did you just say? The crooked-mouthed young man thought he had heard wrong. Idiot, that idiot is obviously using you to deal with me. So obvious and you can see it. What are you if not an idiot? Lu Ming chided, as if he was chiding a child. The crooked-mouthed young man's face suddenly turned ashen. His already crooked mouth became even more crooked as he roared. You're looking for death, kid? You're dead, you piece of shit. I don't care what the reason is, but you're dead because of what you said. That idiot was right about one thing. I only need 10 moves to kill you. No, 3 moves is enough. Lu Ming said coldly. Not far away, Bai Qi was gritting his teeth. Lu Ming kept calling him an idiot. He was so used to it that he almost vomited blood. Humph, Tianyun, you dare to be so arrogant in front of the 10-direction sword school? Let's see how you die. Bai Qi roared in his heart. Kill. The crooked-mouthed young man roared. His killing intent exploded. He could no longer bear it and charged at Lu Ming. Sword howl. The crooked-mouthed young man's first move was a killing move. The dazzling and crystal-like sword qi slashed violently at Lu Ming. Lu Ming smiled faintly. The demon-subduing spear appeared in his hand, and he swept the spear forward. Boom! As the spear swept past, the space trembled violently. The air exploded with a terrifying sound. Due to the spear's speed being too fast, the friction with the air brought about scorching flames. Before the long spear arrived, the terrifying force of the qi explosion had already destroyed the crooked-mouthed youth's sword qi. How did this happen? The crooked-mouthed young man's pupils contracted sharply, revealing a sense of fear. His body moved back frantically, and at the same time his battle sword rotated rapidly, displaying that kind of defensive sword technique. At this moment, the faces of the geniuses of the 10-direction sword school, who were standing on the observing pillars, all changed. What a powerful force! Someone muttered. I didn't expect the General Star's Hall to have a decent genius. Yang Ziqian's eyes showed a trace of interest, but it was just a little bit. Thump! Lu Ming's long spear struck the sword circle formed by the crooked-mouthed youth. In an instant, a shrill and unpleasant rumbling sound was heard. Then the crooked-mouthed young man's eyes popped out and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His body retreated rapidly. Oh,